What is up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Nickel City Rush Hour. Joining me tonight, as always, my friend Jake Podger, my co-host. And we got a special guest that I'll announce here in a little bit. Tonight, we're going to talk about the LIV PGA, what's going on there, educate us all a little bit. I mean, I've been finding my favorite golfers aren't in the events I expect them to be in. So we're going to talk to our good friend Tony over there, who's on our 5 or 6 golf show every week. I can't tell you what time they go on because it varies. They have lives, so whenever Rick and him can schedule it in, usually it's Tuesday night or Wednesday night at the latest. But we're also going to, after that, we're going to talk about Senior Bowl standouts, some of the guys that stood out and who might be potential for the Bills. And then we'll get into a preview a little early on the free agency, just kind of take a look at the Bills situation and all that's going on over there. So with that said, Tony, thanks for joining us. We tried to get you last Wednesday. Didn't happen, but thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday evening.
Well, truth be told, I mean, you were scheduled. You're like, hey, you're going to be on Wednesday. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I have a dinner that I have to go to. So I totally flaked on that. So I have to apologize to you and Jake, but I'm happy to be here, man. Yeah, it's an interesting time in golf. Not a lot of fans out there, like casuals, as we like to call them, us hardos on the golf side. The casuals, it's not the best time to be a fan of golf right now. I think they're having a hard time attracting folks. A lot of it has to do with, obviously, the discord and what's happening with the PGA Tour and LIV.
Yeah, so Tony, educate us. What is this LIV place, this LIV Golf? You saw the logo on the thumbnail. What is it, and why are my favorite golfers defecting over to it?
Well, I mean, it started here about 18 months ago. If you get a chance, I believe it's called Full Swing on Netflix. That series, if you get a chance, if you really want to understand kind of what happened, that series started right as players were starting to leave and go to LIV. And LIV is basically a league that was created by the PIF, which is the Saudi-backed fund, basically, that invests in all of sports. Like, they own a Premier League team. They're invested in a number of sports. And it's slightly controversial, right? There's people that believe in this term that's called sports washing, where, all of this money is generated by the Saudi government, and they dump billions and billions of dollars into this fund, and then the fund goes out and invests in teams and sports and builds stadiums. And so the term's kind of been coined sports washing, where they're washing this money that's taken in by the government, investing in all of these different sports. And so the Saudi government, the PIF fund, started a league called the LIV. And basically what it is, if you haven't had a chance to watch it, and I've watched a little bit here and there, and I'll kind of give you my druthers about why I'm not a huge fan of LIV, and it has nothing to do with the Saudi fund or anything like that. But basically, it's a team concept. If you're familiar with like F1 or even like Supercross, if you watch Supercross racing, where you've got teams, individual guys compete to win individual events, but it's a season-long team event, and it's really driven towards trying to build equity and I guess brand awareness for each one of these teams. There's 8 or 9 teams that are owned by different players, and for what it's worth, I guess what they're trying to do is create an F1 of golf, and that's why you've had a number of players leave the PGA Tour. The biggest reason why is the PIF's got basically an endless supply of money to throw at guys. And so guys like Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka, a number of European Tour players left the PGA Tour about 18 months ago and came over and competed in what was, I think, the first season of LIV Golf. And they were getting paid, a couple $100 million to go over there, not including the purses that they were competing for week in and week out, which are, 20, 30, $40 million. So there's literally generational wealth that's being thrown at these guys. And obviously, the guy that's come over here most recently, that's probably the most high-profile guy in golf, is Jon Rahm. He signed for allegedly $500 million. So it's caused a riff in golf, because obviously we've got a ton of guys that are still playing on the PGA Tour, but now you have a number of the top players in the world: Jon Rahm, Cam Smith, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, just to name a few of these guys that have left and now compete solely on the LIV Tour. And, basically the world of golf has kind of shunned the LIV Tour. So these guys don't earn world rankings. It's not factored in for the Ryder Cup or for any of the majors. And really what it's done is it's pissed off a lot of golf fans, right? People like me who love watching these guys compete week in and week out. And now we've got a situation where we've got these two separate leagues. LIV plays, about a half a dozen, 8 times a year. Obviously, the PGA Tour has 30 or 40 events that are happening each and every week, not including the playoffs and the majors. And it's a difficult time for golf fans because we have so many of the best players in the world that are now competing on the LIV Tour. We don't get to see him, hit shots against the guys like Jordan Spieth and Scotty Scheffler on the PGA Tour. And so there's been a number of announcements here recently, like over the last couple months, about the PGA Tour and the PIF trying to come together. There was an announcement this week that the PGA Tour actually had an investment from a group called SSG. And if you're not familiar with SSG, most people aren't. They are basically a massive private investment fund where you've got a number of guys like the owner of the Boston Celtics, the owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons. They invested $3 billion into the PGA Tour, separate from the deal that the PGA Tour is trying to work out with LIV. And the big reason why that is a step forward for the PGA Tour, not only in their own autonomy, but also in the deal with LIV, is that they were finally able to evaluate what the tour is worth. Like, if you guys don't know this, the PGA Tour was basically a not-for-profit organization. They were basically a charity organization. And so now they became a for-profit league with the deal with SSG. I think they valued the PGA Tour at $14 billion. So SSG made a $3 billion investment into the PGA Tour, which obviously is a minority stake in the business. And then the other thing that it's going to do is it sets up the first professional sports league in the world where the players will earn equity into the PGA Tour. So it's this point system and a lot of things that have to get worked out, but it's a huge step because now it allows the deal that's been on the table here for the last 6 months with the PIF and the PGA Tour to kind of merge the DP World Tour, the PGA Tour, and LIV and get all the guys playing golf back together again. So it's a big step for golf fans.
That's, Tone, this is really interesting because now with the LIV Tour, you made a very good point. It's all team play. It's not the individual play, which I hate. Honestly, I'm not for it. Like, golf is an individual sport. Like, I want to see Brooks Koepka compete against Rory McIlroy. I don't want to see whatever it is, like the Breakers or whatever the team names are. I don't even know what they are. But I don't want to see that. Like, I am not at all here for it. And this is, I just wonder now when they do merge, like, what are they going to do? Is the LIV just going to kind of slowly just sort of disappear, kind of? Like, they're not going to still do team play, right? It's going to have to be sort of PGA format still, right? I would think.
Well, I think that's the interesting piece right now is they're not really sure how all that's going to merge together. There's been some stuff floated out that maybe these elevated events, like this week at the Pebble Beach was an elevated event where the field was cut down to 80 guys and they were playing for $20 million, that these LIV events could be the elevated events, right? Okay. There's also a thought that the LIV may continue to function as its own tour, much like the DP Tour functions as its own, but there would be a conduit for guys on the PGA Tour to kind of go back and forth from LIV and from LIV guys to go back and forth to the PGA Tour, kind of like exists in the world of soccer. Like if you're familiar with at all with like how professional soccer works, a lot of times guys will bounce and play for other teams. They'll go back and forth. Yeah. They'll play friendlies. They'll go on loaner to another team. And so you could find something like that. There's so many questions. There's way more questions than answers. But, and the type of money that they're talking about, Jake, I mean, you're talking about like phone number money, like hundreds of millions of billions of dollars. And, golf as a professional sport has really struggled to connect with people. It's struggled to gain, viewership on TV. So for people to be throwing this kind of money at the game, it kind of takes a bunch of people back because it's like, you're talking about millionaires becoming billionaires now. And it's, for the average guys, people like us, it's just like, dude, just go hit shots. Like to your point, let's watch Rory take on Rahm, take on Scheffler. Like, right. All this league stuff and all this money, it kind of turns a lot of people off. And so the faster that this can be reunified, the better. And that is another big thing that makes the PGA Tour different than any other, sports league is that the PGA Tour really didn't own their players, right? It's like if you're in the NFL, like you play for a team, like they have a contract with you. You're on that team. You can't go play for somebody else. Can't go over to Europe and play for some European football team. And the PGA Tour, like there was nothing locking players in. Once LIV came along, was like, we're going to give you $100 million, and guys started leaving. It really exposed a hole in the game that anybody could come in and do. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, I think for fans, just to kind of lay it out there, for fans, it'll be important for these guys to come back together and to kind of work a system, to your point, that'll allow for these guys to earn Ryder Cup points and be able to play in the majors and do all these things. Like, there was an event today for LIV, and it went to a playoff. It was won by Joaquin Niemann, and he's inarguably one of the top 50 players in the world, but he isn't qualified for any majors this year and has not been earning any world golf points for the last year and a half.
Wow.
And he won a playoff against, I think, Rahm and a couple other guys today, and shot a 59 or a 58 earlier this week, which is insane. And this guy can't play any of the majors. And part of it is that's the penance that they pay for leaving the PGA Tour. But, the reality is for fans, like, we want to see the best possible players competing on the same stage. You know what I mean? It could be, you could imagine, like the NFL, if another league tried to come along, which has happened in the NFL's iteration.
The USFL.
Right? Dude, this has happened a couple of times, right? And so, but if you could imagine them pulling the best players away, and, you're watching, Justin Herbert play for some random team, in Birmingham, Alabama, against a bunch of nobodies, right? That's literally what's happened in professional golf. And so the quicker that we can bring this all back together, the better it is, because right now it's just, it's a mess. And, all the money that they're talking about with all of these agreements, all it's doing is just pissing people off, like the random fans. Cause it's like, the product's not as good as it was. I don't know what's happening. I don't get to see the guys I like, to Mike's point. And now you're talking about throwing billions of dollars at these guys just to get them to play against each other. It's very reminiscent of boxing. Like, why is the UFC completely supplanted boxing as the premier contact sport? It's because you get to see the guys fight each other. And boxing, for years, you could never watch the best boxers in the world fight other guys in their weight classes because of one guy was in the IBF or the IBC or whatever the heck it was. And we have a similar dynamic in professional golf today. And the quicker they can get it fixed, the better for everybody.
100% agree. That resonates real quick, Mike. It resonates with us a little bit too, because you mentioned the USFL, and Jim Kelly doesn't play for the Buffalo Bills for his first 3 seasons. So totally get it. They got to figure it out, because we want to see the best of the best compete against each other. On top of that, I think we have some of the best golfers we've ever seen, like, all playing at once. But the fact that they're not in the same league, or they can't actually compete against each other, it's just criminal. So got to figure it out. But Mike, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. Good stuff. Tony, explain to me a little bit how this team thing works. So is it teams of 3? Like me, you, and Jake are on a team, and we're competing in a tournament? And is the tournament a 4-day tournament, 3-day tournament? And then if our team, like the sum of our scores, if we win, do we split it 3 ways? How's that work?
Yeah, so there's an individual winner, right? So like Joaquin Niemann won the event today. He's on a team. There's 4 guys on a team. And so to your point, the cumulative score, that gets factored in. And so there's a team winner and an individual winner. So in any event that's out there, you could have a guy like Niemann who wins it, but his team may not win it. There may be a team that finished, 2nd, 3rd, 7th, and 10th, and that team actually wins the team event because they are the lowest score of 4. So that's kind of how it works. And if you go to LIV's website, if you're able to find out where they are, they broadcast on YouTube and I think on the CW, but it's almost impossible to find their product anywhere. But that's really what it is. They only play 54 holes, which is why they haven't been able to earn world golf rankings. Most PGA Tour events are 4 days, 72 rounds, or 72 holes, excuse me. And so that's been the main reason why they won't count these scores towards world golf rankings. So it's very difficult to do. If you can imagine, like, you play 3 quarters and the game's over versus a team that plays 4 quarters and the game's over. And that's basically the argument around LIV, is that because they're not playing on an equal playing field, they're not playing as many rounds, that it can't be factored in. But again, I was I would say that I've never been anti-live because I think the one thing that's happened is it's proven these guys who left and took the money that they're going to be able to come back and play on the PGA Tour again. Like the PGA Tour has kind of been like, they kind of have their hat in their hand. They're like, hey,
back.
yeah, hey, John Rahm, hey, hey, Brooks Koepka, come back. And I mean, in the majors last year, Koepka won the major and basically earned his way onto the Ryder Cup, which was a big middle finger to the PGA Tour and to the R&A and all these establishments. And that's another major difference in professional golf. Like professional golf does not own any of its majors. So like Augusta, the PGA Championship, the US Open, the British Open, the Ryder Cup, these are individually owned championships that the PGA Tour gets to compete in, but the PGA Tour has no control over those and they can make whatever decisions they want to make unilaterally from the PGA. And so there's this really, really weird dynamic in professional golf from all over sports where they have a schedule, they have players, they don't own the players, they don't own any of the events. The events stand on their own. It's really, really weird. And so it's hard to imagine any other sport that you can kind of draw parallels to. But I would say this, I think the LIV product, because of the quality of golfers that are there, is as good as any. But for me, and I mentioned this off the jump, it's really difficult for me to watch it and be like compelled to watch it. Like I get it. Like it's good golf and there's guys that I like, but it's an exhibition. You know what I mean? They're really not playing for anything. And the closest parallel that I can bring it to football is imagine if you just watch the Pro Bowl every week and it was just the same, 100 guys on one side, same 100 guys. And it's the best 200 guys in the NFL, but they just get out there and play a game every week and there's no playoffs and it doesn't really mean anything. And they get paid millions and millions of dollars, but there's no Super Bowl. There's nothing that intrinsically provides any value or like any hooks. And I think that's the problem that LIV has, is it just the casual sports fans like, what the hell does this do for me?
Spot on. So Jake, you were talking about like you don't like the team thing. I kind of like the dynamic in that they're still having the individual, but I do kind of like that team concept. And I don't know if there's, I think you and Rick have talked about this. Is there some things that LIV's doing, sort of like the USFL? I think there were some things that the NFL learned from either the USFL or from the XFL. Jake,
XFL.
They were doing some technology that they brought in. Is there something that the PGA can learn from what LIV's doing? And then how are those teams chosen?
Well, so I'll answer your questions in reverse. The teams are chosen basically like John Rahm is a brand new guy to LIV this year. And so what happens is he was given a team, a franchise, an opportunity. And so he picked 4 guys, right? And so like Hatton's on his team and then 2 other guys that nobody really knows or cares about. And so what's odd is you can like drop guys, you can pick other guys up, you can trade guys with other teams. And all of this is really kind of foggy because they don't really spell out how all this crap happens. But it's just a really weird dynamic because they haven't really done a good job of saying this is how the league works. This is how the teams are set up. This is how trades work. This is how guys are signed. This is how we add new teams. There's guys that went to LIV that are no longer on LIV. Like they've just faded off the face of the earth and nobody knows what's happened to them. So it's really, really strange. It's just the concept I think is a good concept. I just don't know if golf fans here in the States will ever grasp it. You know what I mean? Like this analogy to F1 that's been thrown out over and over again. Like most casual sports fans in the United States could give a shit about F1. Like, and if they're fans of a driver. They're not like I'm team Ferrari or I'm team Mercedes-Benz. So, it goes against everything I think that we as Americans kind of value in sports. And so there's not a lot there. Again, for me personally, there's not a lot there. I get what you're saying. It does add like a new dynamic to rooting for, but it's so poorly explained that the product suffers and nobody watches. I think it peaked out on YouTube with like 17,000 viewers. I mean, can you imagine if any random sporting event on TV had 17,000 viewers? They'd cancel it. It's a joke.
That's what I'm saying. How are they actually making money? Like, I know it's Saudi backed and there's a ton of money, like more money than we can even fathom. But how are they winning on their investment? Like, I don't even understand how that's working. Like,
yeah,
I watched it that opening week, and then after that, I didn't I haven't watched it since. Like, I'm just not interested at all. I mean,
Yeah,
I want to see the players play.
so
but
I think it comes down to the goal of the league. Like, basically what they wanted to do with starting basically a competitive league with the PGA Tour is force the PGA Tour's hand to merge with them. So to your point, they are not making any money. They are losing hundreds of millions of dollars, but they don't care because they've got enough money to do that. So it's just one of those things, Jake, where I think they kind of went to the PGA Tour and like, hey, we want to invest in the PGA Tour. We want to do this. The PGA Tour was like, no, get away from us. And they're like, okay, well, screw you guys. We're going to start our own league and take all your best guys. And I think that's the one thing, though, that the PGA Tour will always have, even if a deal doesn't come together, which I'm sure it probably will. The PGA Tour has history. The PGA Tour has the future in terms of the next up-and-coming stars. LIV can own now. Like, they can have the best guys on tour right now, but the PGA Tour is going to continue to pump out stars, guys that are coming up through college and the Korn Ferry Tour. And the PGA Tour owns all of its history. Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, like, LIV can't buy any of that. And so that legitimacy is what I don't care how much money you throw at it. Like, you can't duplicate that.
Yeah, there's definitely like a nostalgia that comes with the PGA. There's just, so many feelings that you just basically talked about. Like, you can't replicate it. And to your credit, like, talking about this too, like, there's no way to give that same vibe to the LIV Tour. It's just not going to happen no matter what they do. So, and I just wonder too, again, like, so it's return on investment. I think that's a very good point because I was curious about that. Like, you said they peaked at like 17,000 viewers on YouTube. Like, that's just wild to me. Like, there's no way they got to be losing their ass on this. But you made a good point because it gave the PGA basically an ultimatum. It's like, hey, you got to merge with us because we're just going to keep taking your best players because we had the money to pay them. So it is interesting. And I love the conversation. There's so many other ways you can go with this, and we could debate on this all night. It's a very, very interesting conversation for sure.
Yeah, Battlehawk, that's kind of funny. I wish the Saudi would buy a football league, more competition. You don't want to water down NFL. They'd be taking players just like, the PGA's losing some of the best players in the world. Imagine Josh Allen and Mahomes says, oh, man,
gosh, that'd be so weird.
$500 million? Shoot, I'll jump on that all day. Tony, has it at least forced the PGA to have higher payouts in their tournaments?
Yeah, 100%. The elevated event started right after the announcement was made. And to your early question, which I didn't really answer about innovation, the PGA Tour has been forced to, for years, guys like me who've been watching the PGA Tour, like, my biggest complaint is, dude, just show more shots, show more guys. Like, I don't need story time. Like, I don't need, you to tell me about the historic track and, run a story about the greenskeeper. Excuse me. Like, just show me shots. Show me the best guys in the world hitting great golf shots. That's what I want to see. And so LIV, really, their model has been to show as many golf shots as possible. So the PGA Tour has done the same thing. The other thing that we've been complaining about as PGA Tour fans for years is let me watch the guys I want to watch. Like, the technology exists today. Like, if I want to go watch, excuse me, Scotty Scheffler, or I want to watch Xander Schauffele or whoever, a random golfer, like, we have the technology with cameras and the internet to do that. And the PGA Tour has never done it. And LIV rolled out a thing in partnership with Google this week where they said, hey, you'll be able to watch every single golfer, every single shot. You'll be able to pick which guy you want to watch. That's a cool innovation, to your point. And I think that's one of those things that I hope continues to be fostered out of this thing that's positive for the PGA Tour, right? That we get these innovations, like you mentioned, when the XFL, who started, I don't know if you remember, but that overhead huddle cam that is now part of every single NFL broadcast, that was with the XFL. The XFL rolled that out, miking players up so you could hear guys, like, while they're playing, interviewing coaches during the game. Like, those were all enhancements and things that were done in the XFL. And now the NFL has kind of borrowed those and rolled them out. And so I hope we continue to see these things bleed over into PGA Tour because it'll make a better product at the end of the day. Like, I'm a firm believer that competition in any way, shape, or form makes you get better. Like, you have to improve. And so, at the very least, we could see this happen in professional golf, where the product as fans that we end up with when this is all said and done is a better product on TV. It has more of the best guys. It's more compelling tournaments, all the things that we hope happens.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tony. That's a must-have for me. I mean, how many times, like, let's take, for instance, Tiger's playing, and Tiger's paired up with Jason Day and maybe another good player, maybe a not so well-known player, but that's your favorite player, is one of your favorite players. You will never see those guys unless you're just killing it. Like, if they're competing or they're having a good round, they might cut over to them. But most of the time, we're going to be seeing the best player, Tiger Woods, right? They're going to follow him, which is cool. I love Tiger, but I want to see those other guys. So to me, that's a must-have. So hopefully they do incorporate that. And heck, I might even pay for that service, honestly.
I probably would.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jay, go ahead.
No, yeah, keep going.
I was going to say, that's one of the things that I think golf fans have been saying. Like, dude, we'll pay to watch our guy, hit a shot, like be able to pick the guy I want to see. Think of it as like red zone for golf, where anybody who's got, dude, the red zone package is great. You get to be like, hey, look, they're in the red zone. Let's click over and watch that play or this game, and you can do the same thing. And the one thing that the PGA Tour has done is kind of embraced betting and daily fantasy. And I mean, you tell me you got money riding on a guy. Like, the joke for our show is the 5 of 6 show, which relates to getting 6 guys through the cut in DraftKings, right? And there's many times that I'm like on Shot Tracker on my phone watching a guy, like, if he hits his birdie putt, he makes it into the weekend and I get 6 of 6 through. But imagine me paying, I don't know, $7.99, $8.99 a month to be able to select the guys I want to watch because I've got money or a DraftKings lineup riding on these guys getting through the cut. Like, that's compelling to me.
For sure. Yeah. So that's where the name came from. I was always wondering, like, how'd you pick that name? That makes so much sense now.
No, it's completely related to DraftKings. So
that's great.
I always laugh, like, 5 of 6, like it's so hard to get 6 of 6 through the cut and into the weekend, but it feels like every time I do it, it's 5 of 6 through the cut. So that's always been the running joke, is 5 of 6 through.
That's great.
Yeah, Tony, the Shot Tracker technology has been bad as well. I mean, like you said, you're watching that because they're not showing your guy at all, and you're looking at it, and it says, 3 foot, 4 foot putt. Next thing you know, they correct it to where it was a 24-foot putt, or something crazy. Or he's out of, it's always wrong, and it's deceiving. So again, I like the fact that give me an opportunity to watch my guy instead of depending on their Shot Tracker technology, which is terrible.
Well, you know why it's so bad is it's literally, I mean, you've seen who volunteers for PGA Tour events, right?
Yeah.
It's like 70, 80-year-old grandma and grandpa out there, and they hand them an iPad, and they're like, hey, walk with the group. And so, every now and then grandma and grandpa hit the wrong button at the wrong time, and it's like, wait a second, that's not right. So that's literally how it's done. But, to your point, the technology that LIV rolled out with Google and the ability to have like micro cameras at certain like strategic points on holes and being able to see shots, like, dude, it's such a great thing. I mean, imagine that technology even like deployed during an NFL game. Like, we get to see glimpses of that, like for big games like the Super Bowl. But imagine like if you could be like, you're watching like your main feed, which is like, the side shot of the game, but you're like, dude, I want to see like, the D end up top on the tackle, and I can make that like a blocked out screen, or I want to see, the corner and the wide receiver down low spotlighted, like the ability to pick your views. And some of what Apple Vision has started to roll out, like those things will allow for that. And because the camera technology has gotten so much better, you could see things like that happen. And the game of golf is actually a great place to kind of deploy and test all of that because it's moving so slow. Like you can literally go shot to guy to guy. And then as you become better at integrating those things, now you deploy it in things like basketball and football and baseball, and it becomes more intriguing.
That is a really cool concept, Tony. I never even thought about all this stuff. Like it's always crossed my mind, like watching golf too, just like, you made a good point. You got money on guys. You want to follow exactly what's going on with them. But in the game of football, like being able to watch, like in the trenches, picking specific players to watch, like that is a sweet concept. We need that.
Yeah,
we absolutely need that.
Dude, imagine like in the Super Bowl, if you were able, like they're in a formation and Kelsey gets up and walks out and Fred Warner walks over the top of him and you shadow box that, right? And it's like, dude, I want to see what happens with these two guys on this play.
How cool is that?
Yeah. So the technology, I think, will allow to do that, and it's just getting faster and faster and better. And hopefully the game of golf will benefit from that and get more casual people watching. And I think betting helps a ton too. I mean, you guys know me, like I love to bet on golf. I love to do daily fantasy. I also love to do it in football. But the more that golf can integrate that, having skin in the game, like that will get more and more people engaged. But the technology for following the sport has to be good enough where, like we talked about, I don't have to worry about grandma and grandpa getting the shot tracker wrong and my guy missing the cut when I thought he made the cut.
Yep.
To Roy, to your comment there, from me, no comment on that one. I mean,
Roy's trying to get us all in trouble.
He's our wives watch this.
Listen, I'm here for it, Roy. So. I'm just going to say I am here for it.
I'm here for it.
I got to say this too. If you've ever watched women's golf, by the way,
yes,
you watch women's golf, their form is like the way that they can pull the club up. I think it's like just due to flexibility. Like they're just 100%. More flexible than guys. It is like so pure. Like it's just such a nice, good looking swing. By the way, good looking. I mean, you look at the women on tour. There are some very attractive women. I'm just going to say it right now in the LPGA right now. Very good looking women playing that sport, and they're incredible athletes. And they would, I mean, it's just cool to watch. I've watched a couple events now, and I'm like, damn, these girls are really freaking good. They need more publicity.
Yeah, I mean, it's the LPGA is gotten better. The one thing that I would say is that's helped the game of golf a lot is the last, let's call it decade, it's skewed much younger. Like historically, golf's been like an older game where the average player was like 45 to 50 years old. And now the average guy on tour is in his late 20s, early 30s. And the same thing on the LPGA where you've got a bunch of these gals coming from college and some international players coming straight as they turn 18 to go play. And so because of the younger dynamic, to your point, it's become a little more compelling and easier to watch.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Well, Tony, we thank you for your time. I said it'd be about 30 minutes and we're right at that mark.
Appreciate it.
You've helped Jake and I quite a bit, and hopefully the folks that are watching just kind of understand the dynamics that's going on between the PGA and LIV. And I miss my guy. I know you don't like him, but Phil Mickelson, I need to watch my guy. Oh. I love Phil, and I miss him. So he was one of the first to transfer over to LIV. I think, if not the first, for the biggest, one of the biggest contracts early on. So got to see these guys back on. I hope they figure it out soon. And thank you so much for joining us, man.
No, I appreciate you guys having me on and wasting 30 minutes of everybody's time. But
no, this is super interesting. I want to get your thoughts real quick before you go too. What are your thoughts on like Rory McIlroy when he first came out and he's like, I'll never go to LIV. Like he disowned the whole league and like was ticked off at the guys that left, and he sort of walked that back. Like, I guess, did you agree with the sentiment at first? Has your viewpoint changed on it, or were you just indifferent about the whole thing? Like, where are you at with all of that?
So I would say this. At the point in time when Rory kind of came out, he was carrying the flag for the PGA Tour. And I think a lot of the information, a lot of the narrative, it was fed to him. And they put a lot on him, dude. The PGA Tour basically went to Rory and said, dude, you need to be our guy in the fray, taking the shots and being a spokesperson about why the PGA Tour needs to be the Premier League and why this LIV thing is a bad thing. And he took ownership of that. And, now behind closed doors, they were working a deal with the Saudis during this whole time, trying to figure out how they could merge things back together. And when it came to light, it devastated the dude because he was literally putting himself on a cross, for lack of a better term, for the PGA Tour, and then they turned their back on him. And so I think, number one, it takes guts to walk stuff back, to be like, you know what, I was wrong. I might have come on too strong. So I give him some respect for walking it back and having the stones to be like, I might not have had the best information when I was saying these things, and I apologize for some of the stuff that I said. At the same point in time, like, for a guy of Rory's stature, before you go out and do that, like, take a quick look over at Tiger. Like, Tiger wasn't out there, MF and LIV and saying bad things about Greg Norman, the guy's leaving. So you kind of, part of me is like, Rory, you should have been a little smarter in looking at your contemporaries and being like, how come nobody else is up here in the front of the line with me taking shots, right? So, I do respect Rory for being that guy and for kind of leading the charge. Don't forget, like John Rahm was out there basically saying LIV was the worst thing ever, and he would never go. And fast forward 18 months, and now he signs for $500 million. So but like I said, I've never been a huge Rory fan in terms of him being a mouthpiece. Like, he's a great golfer, but a lot of times I'm like, dude, just be quiet and go play golf. Like, you don't need to be that guy all the time. So hopefully this gives him some perspective on things, and he learns a little bit from it. But I would say this. I guess I have a little respect for him walking back the comments.
I like it.
Tony, before you leave, we got let's pivot to football a little bit. We got Battlehawk out there, and Tony, there's no one more football than him. He played in college for Boise State. He's got his dad, his brother have coached at high level high school. I mean, I'm talking state championship level. Tony, do you respect the script, the NFL script? Battlehawk believes it's all scripted, buddy.
It's funny how things work out, right? And I would say that luck, happenstance is a byproduct of preparation, right? So it's like you look at these teams, and the Chiefs, they're battle tested. This is something that they always seem to find their way like into the Super Bowl. They have the best quarterback in the league, maybe of all time. If he wins another one, he's firmly in the conversation. So it feels scripted. I mean, we all laugh because, this whole Taylor Swift thing and how that's kind of taken on a life of its own, and they find their way in. But the reality is, like, it's kind of like the pandemic. Remember when the pandemic hit and then everybody's like, this is fake. Like, the whole thing's orchestrated. Like, it's a big deal. And everybody's like, there's no way. This is across the world. You're talking about billions of people being orchestrated. And then it's kind of like after the fact, we're like, this deal was kind of manufactured a little bit. So is there a script? I think the NFL knows what properties and teams they want to have in the forefront. And if there's things that they can do, not necessarily cheating, but if there's things they can do to propel those teams to the forefront because it gets more ratings, more gambling, more everything, they will do everything in their power to make sure those teams have success, short of fixing games. I don't think there's any game fixing, but there's definitely things that happen behind closed doors that give those teams advantages over other teams because the NFL wants to see them in the finals.
That's very well put.
We're going to put another one out there for you from Battlehawk. He wants to know, because he's heard our take, but he wants to know your take. Best quarterback, Josh Allen, if Josh Allen was on the Chiefs, would he be every bit as successful as Patrick Mahomes has been?
I don't know. Like, I'm one of those guys that believes, like, when you look at like the greatest quarterbacks of all teams and all times and the greatest coaches of all times, like, they tend to kind of run together, right? Like, it's a pairing. Like, it is the best guy in the perfect system for him. Patrick Mahomes is in the perfect system for him to have success. They've built a team around him so that he can be successful and maximize what he does well. Even though Josh has similar skill sets, Josh is a different player. So I wouldn't say that an Andy Reid system with that team that he's any better than he is today with the team that he has. But I will say this, that if you look, the Chiefs have done a great job of keeping the offense built around him. Josh is now, with 2 or 3 offensive coordinators, and I think they're still trying to figure out what's the right system for him to be successful. And they still need to bring in pieces. Like, you guys have talked about it many times. Like, they brought in Diggs, and Diggs is a good one, but he's not an alpha wide receiver. He's a good receiver, but he's not A.J. Brown. He's not Jamar Chase. He's not Jeffries. Like, he's good, but he's not that level of good. He's not Tyreek Hill good. So you need a guy like that, a weapon that you can hang your hat on. And, Mahomes has Kelsey. Like, that's your alpha. That's your one. And until the Bills can find that complement to Josh, like, he's going to have to be his own number one, which is why he makes a lot of mistakes and runs so much and does some things that you're like, why are you doing that? But I firmly believe that him and Herbert are probably the 2 most talented guys in the NFL. They just don't have the weapons of the system around them that can really maximize what they're doing on the field.
It's a great take, Tony.
A+
Great take.
takes.
Yeah.
I'm 100% with Battlehawks here. Tony, incredible takes today. Everything you said, I mean, you are like, I'm like, yeah, this guy is spot on with everything he said today.
Well, hey, I have the benefit of being around a bunch of smart people like you guys, and so I get to take in all these takes, and then I get to filter out what I like and what I don't. But you guys know I'm a huge Josh fan. I told Mike when they drafted him that this dude was going to be special. I watched him in college play against Boise State, and I was like, this dude is a freak of nature. Like he is a difference maker, and I still believe that. To me, you got to get him. You got to get him a couple pieces. You need to get him a solid. I don't care if it's a running back, a tight end, a wide receiver. You need to get him a solid piece that can be his guy. And it's like everybody knows they're going to him, but it doesn't matter because they have that level of connection and proficiency in calling plays and running offenses and finding schemes to get guys open. So, I'm still high on him. I still think he's fantastic. He's probably 2 or 3 in the league, in my opinion. Lamar's right there too. But yeah, no, the answer and bringing this all back, the script is real. The NFL does try to promote teams to be in there, but I think Josh is on the right team, and I think they just need to get a couple more pieces there for him in Buffalo.
Awesome. Well, Tony, if you still kind of owe me, I mean, you went to Boise State, you're an alumni there. I asked you to get us an interview with Khalil Shakir. Can you reach out to your sources, because you claim to have some big sources over there? So can you get the young kid on he's already climbing now. He's going to be even more difficult.
Great in the playoff, dude.
Gotta get him when he's still not,
get him, right before he gets to wide receiver 1 status. Help us out, man.
I'll do my best. So I know the guy that runs all of his social media. We all played together at Boise State together. So I'll do my best to get him on. But dude, like I told you, Robert Woods 2.0, a little bit quicker,
love it,
a little bit faster. Robert Woods 2.0. So they need to hold on to him and bring in another guy. That guy can be the alpha and make him the number 2. He's a great number 2.
Yeah. We love what we've seen out of him. So anyhow, thanks, Tony. We appreciate it, man. And we'll see. When will we see you this week? What's the plan for the 5 or 6 show?
Yeah, so I'll actually be in Las Vegas this week while the Super Bowl is going on. There's also a live event out there, but I'll be in Vegas here Monday through Thursday. And then I'm coming back because I do not want to be anywhere around Las Vegas as it gets closer to Super Bowl time. But hopefully, I think Rick and I will probably go live on Tuesday night, maybe tomorrow night. It just depends on schedules. Rick's pretty busy. He runs his own dental practice. And then me with travel, you never know. But I would say Monday or Tuesday, but we'll put it out there on social media. You can follow Rick at Riku Mukherjee or me at 5 or 6 on the X machine or Twitter or whatever the heck it's called these days. And we'll put it out there. And of course, all those will come out on the Nickel City Mafia channel. And if you're subscribed to that, it'll just dump right into your feed and you can watch it and listen to me ramble more about golf.
Love it. You just reminded me. I always forget to tell people or ask people, not tell them, ask. If you're new to the channel, please like, comment, drop a nickel on that subscribe button. We appreciate it. We got lots of content going on all week long. So thanks again, Tony. This was great. Say hi to Mel and the kiddos. I'm sure they're just about ready to get to bed and they need a big hug and a kiss from Dad.
100%. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate you, sir. Always a pleasure.
Take it easy. Still need to get together. Jake, you got to come out west.
We're doing it. You're actually going to officiate the combine. Mike's going to participate in it this year.
I'm going to be in it.
It's got to happen. Great.
All right, Tony. We'll see you later.
See you, Tone.
All right, guys.
That guy is such a stud, Mike.
Isn't he?
I freaking love him.
Yeah.
He speaks. By the way, Tony is like such a good speaker.
He is.
Like the way he words things, I can't even use some of the words that he's saying. Like I don't even know half the words mean. I'm like, this guy's speaking at a level way beyond my brain power. And I'm just locked in. I'm just glued in. And I feel like every time he'd make a point, I just repeat it back to him because like I had nothing else that I could really even contribute because the guy's just so damn spot on with it. And I'm like, he's just the man. I love Tony.
I've worked with Tony now for about 13 years, and that's his job. Jake, he's been in sales.
He's so good.
He's the vice president of business development for us. So he's talking to people all the time. He gets in front of large groups, and that's why he's going to be in Vegas for one of the big shows that Power Sports has this year.
He's genuine too.
He is.
Like he's not. There's nothing fake about the guy. He is just genuine. He means what he says. Just love him. Maybe a man crush here, Mike. I don't know. I don't know.
It's fun because he's
He's a
unbiased,
good-looking
right?
guy,
He
too.
doesn't have an allegiance to any team. So he will
Right.
tell you straight up what he's thinking. And, you and I, as much as we try to stay unbiased, it's difficult when
Yeah,
you've been a
for
fan.
sure.
So let's see. Yeah, exactly. I was just saying that. Tony seemed very authentic for sure, Chad. Chad, is this is this the Chad we've
Yeah.
been talking to, and now he's changed things up?
Look at that. He's got the AFC Championship trophy there in the picture and everything. Unbelievable.
So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. It went a little longer, but I think it was a lot of fun. This is kind of what the Rush Hour show will be doing a lot, especially during the off season. We'll be talking about other sports and kind of educate you, but we'll always have some football talk. Like we're going to get into, folks that stood out at the Senior Bowl this year. If this was one day, Jake, we'll have little commercials in between segments. We'll play the commercial and we'll go right into the next segment.
There we go.
But I like the new logo there, Chad. So let's see. He said he had to change it for the Super Bowl. I love it.
Brilliant.
So yeah, we're going to pivot now, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Senior Bowl. And Jake, I hope you did a little research. I did a little bit as well, a little bit reading about who stood out at the Senior Bowl. And when I say stood out, these are guys for me, when I talk about them, guys that I think could fit the Bills system, that the Bills could use. I'm not going to go through, if you go out on social media, you Google, you're going to find 10 different lists. And so I'm going to talk about a handful of guys that really stood out. And Trek Review, if you're still on, Trek Reviewer posted a comment on our previous show. And he talked about some of the guys that he would like to see us get in the draft. And lo and behold, some of those guys also were some of the standouts in the Senior Bowl. Now, one thing new about the Senior Bowl this year is that draft-eligible juniors are finally able to participate in the Senior Bowl, and I think that's pretty cool. But Jake, what's your thoughts on the Senior Bowl? What's your thoughts on that? I know it gets a lot of attention. There's scouts are out there. I wasn't able to find any information as far as who the Bills were talking to or were interested in, because they also have interviews, right? You go out there as a staff and you sit down and interview these guys, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I know multiple guys were asked about like Josh Allen, their thoughts on him, and et cetera, et cetera. It was mostly in the media, but yeah, it's a really good opportunity for these seniors and obviously draft eligible juniors to work with an NFL coaching staff and I guess build those relationships with those coaches. So going into the draft process, these coaches have a better idea of who this player is. They can also see them compete, not only like in a practice, but also like in an actual game scenario too. So it's a really cool thing. They started the Senior Bowl many, many years ago, and it's like the premier college, like all-star game, if you will, for players that are going to the next level. So it's really cool to see. They have a lot of other different bowl games now too. The Shine Bowl, there's the NFLPA Bowl, and then there's like the Hula Bowl too. That's another one. And those are all sort of one-offs. The Senior Bowl is like king of them all. So yeah, it's a really cool opportunity, and there were a lot of good prospects that I know the Bills had their eye on.
Kind of cool that they're letting juniors come out to that now, right?
Yeah,
This
sure.
This is the first year that they implemented that, so that's kind of cool. Roy's asking if there's any pickleball episodes coming. Let me just tell do you know what pickleball is, Jake?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, yep.
All right, is it big out there in on the East Coast?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's definitely growing. It's a thing for sure. I know a handful of people that play it.
It's huge out here. I mean, they're putting up courts. Of course, we're in California. We have sun all year round for the most part, so you can play. Somebody told me they were playing pickleball like 6 months back. I'm like, what the hell is pickleball?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's just it's where former tennis players that are too old for the game, they retire to. But no, it's just a casual sport as well. But it is a professional sport. So, Roy, I don't know. You never know on the Rush Hour. Trek Reviewer saying he fell asleep during the third hole. Come on, Trek Reviewer. Are you not a golf fan at all?
Man.
I mean, I don't know about you, Jake, but I've been playing golf. I used to drive. This is back in the day. I always say back in the day, but when I lived in Buffalo, my friends and I, we were in 6th, 7th grade. We get our clubs, we get on the bus, and we go to the Kaz golf course.
Oh,
take the bus all the way out there and have a good day of golf and take the bus back. good old times, man, when you could take the bus as a kid and your parents would be okay with it.
Heck yeah.
What about you? You like golf? You
Love
golfer?
golfing.
All right.
It's the most humbling sport in the world. I love playing. Problem is my score usually is equivalent to the amount of beers that I drink. So, and I usually drink around 100 or so beers per. No, not really, but my score is definitely reminiscent of my drinking ability. So,
Yeah.
when I'm on the course, they go hand in hand with one another. And yes, most humbling sport in the world. I love it. You keep coming back for those like few shots every time you're out there, where it's like, man, maybe I'm starting to get the hang of this. And then there's another shot after that that just humbles you, and it's like, wow,
Yeah.
here we go. We're back to square one.
I know, exactly. All right.
Yep.
So, Jake, let's do it this way. So, we'll go back and forth. I'll throw it to you first. Give me a standout that piqued your interest because you could see that person playing for the Buffalo Bills and making a difference.
Well, I want to show you something. I don't normally do notes, Mike, but I got a whole
Ooh,
list
look
of
at you.
players here. Yeah. I
All
didn't
right.
want to miss anything. So I put some
I have
notes.
I have 4. Looks like you got a little
Okay.
bit more, but let's see if you cover mine. So, give me one.
Yeah. Well, I think I have to talk about my boy Xavier Leggett, right?
Okay.
So, first things first, I think there was maybe one discouraging thing you could take away, and that was when he got his height and weight. So, his roster picture stats info with South Carolina listed him as a 6'3", 227-pound receiver. So his weight was pretty spot on. He ended up weighing in at 223, but his height is actually 2 inches shorter. He measured 6'1". So if that's going to deter you from taking him, I don't know. I mean, I still don't think it's that big of an issue because he plays way bigger than his actual height. And 6'1's not even that short anyways. But, we're talking receivers. We want a big guy, right? We want a guy 6'4" and above. But I'll make an exception for my guy, Xavier Leggett. He was absolutely incredible during the second practice specifically. I actually got to watch all the Senior Bowl practices this week, so I was really tuned into him, and he just looks so darn good. Like, he goes up and gets it. He's got explosive playmaking ability. This dude is like a combination of Deebo Samuel and A.J. Brown, and it's just so encouraging to me. I know there was a scout actually that came out this week, and he's an older scout, and he's like, it actually reminds me of guys that I grew up watching, guys like Art Monk, Al Toon. I think he even mentioned Jerry Rice too. Like, comparisons to those dudes, I'm like, that's a huge compliment already to come out and say that. I am a huge, huge fan of Xavier Leggett. This is a dude that I've been beating my chest about since like maybe November of this last year. So I'm really excited that he had I thought he had a tremendous Senior Bowl week, and a guy worthy of that 28th overall pick for the Buffalo Bills. And that's who I want, Mike.
Ooh,
That's who I want us to
28th.
take.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
First round talent.
All right. Well, if we don't get a receiver in the first, which based on what you and others have been saying, how stacked this wide receiver group is, I think we can find some gems as well later in the second and third. And one of the guys that stood out at the Senior Bowl, and Trek Reviewer is going to love this, and that is Roman Wilson from Michigan.
Yeah.
Now, you know me, I don't usually talk about anyone below 6'2".
I was just going to say.
Right? I know. But when you have a dude who can run a 4.37, I think that's the number I had him. Yes, 4.37.
Yeah.
And based on what I saw Zay Flowers be able to do for the Ravens, because you talked him up, you were spot on with Zay Flowers, and I was all against it. I'm like, Jake, the dude's too small. I'm tired of these small guys. But Tyreek Hill is very small. And if you got a guy with just electric wheels, I can give it a pass on the height, man. I can give it a pass, Jake. So Roman Wilson runs a 4.37, has like a 40-inch vertical. That's another way that you can kind of,
a freak.
You're 5'10", but if you have a 40-inch vertical, my goodness. So Roman Wilson, for me, he had a very good Senior Bowl week, and a lot of folks are talking about him. And Trek Reviewer, again, left some comments on our past show talking about who he would like to see the Bills draft, and Roman Wilson was on that list. So great job, Trek Reviewer.
Yeah.
Let me throw it back to you, Jake.
Yeah. Well, kind of going with that theme of the whole size thing, there's another guy that I thought really stood out this week, Malachi Corley, wide receiver for Western Kentucky. So you probably haven't heard his name at all. He hasn't really been thrown into the mix with these other guys like Roma Dunze and Marvin Harrison Jr. and, Troy Franklin and all these other guys, right? But this kid, Malachi Corley, I think he's worthy of a day 2 pick, maybe second or third round. So this is a guy that we can maybe look at. If our guy isn't there in the first round, we can go get this dude. This guy reminds me a little bit of like Jarvis Landry, but I think he has ability to also play outside. And Jarvis played outside a little bit too, but he's just tough. He's physical. He's 5'10", 215 pounds. And you talk about an element that I feel like the Bills offense has been missing a lot of: yards after the catch. He is a grinder. He's a gritty player. Kind of Zay Flower vibes too, a little bit with that, because that's what Zay is known for too, coming into the draft last year. So this is a kid that I really like, Malachi Corley. Remember that name. I think Daniel Jeremiah actually has him listed as one of his top 50 prospects as well. This is a dude that's an up-and-comer. I think he's a day 2 guy for sure. But this is a dude that I want the Bills to also consider as well.
I like that, Jake. I like it. Let me see here. Johnny Wilson's only 6'6". So
that's his boy, man.
Johnny
I love
Wilson
Johnny Wilson too.
Did not make my list. I mean, I know he was in the Senior Bowl, and there was one knock on him that when I was reading, the ups and downs, like who they thought lifted their stock potential and who dropped a little bit. You guys had said it as well. I think you said last week on our show that his teammate actually kind of had surpassed him. Like, is it Cole?
Yeah.
Cole?
Keon Coleman.
Yeah, Coleman. And that Johnny Wilson probably has slipped just a little bit. And he's looking to be like a second rounder right now. He's 6'6". The only knockout of the Senior Bowl is they didn't see enough separation from who was watching him. So again, it's very limited. I mean, when they're doing these practices, Jake, it really depends too. You got to look at who the competition is they're going up against. Sometimes they're going against, like, he's 6'6". I did see one video where he had some small 5'10" corner on him, and he just lit him up. He burnt him. I mean, he put a move on him so bad and got wide open. But from what I saw from some of the other experts who were watching more of the Senior Bowl, and maybe even during practice, they didn't like the separation he was getting. But 6'6", I'm all for it. So, track viewer, just because the expert said that, I'm still with you right there. But that wasn't my guy on the list. I just wanted to bring it up because we had talked about him last week being 6'7" or 6'8" or something like that. And then Johnny Wilson, he was saying, also has a 6'6" vertical. So that's pretty impressive.
He's only 6'6". Hilarious comment.
Only 6'6". So what I tried to do when I was looking for my standouts was just kind of like needs for the Bills. Obviously, wide receiver is one of them. Playmaker wide receiver, one who can change the game, can take a short pass to the house, can go deep, keep that defense honest. So that's why I came in with Roman Wilson with my first one, a wide receiver. But now I'm going into the trenches on the D-line. So because of right now, we don't have a lot of our interior defensive linemen signed. I mean, we have a lot of free agents this year, which we're going to cover after this. We're going to go through all of the Bills and kind of quickly ask you in the channel, do we re-sign them? And I'm going to give you some market value to help you with that decision. But one of the guys that really impressed me, you remember big old Ted Washington for the Buffalo Bills? Remember him? How big that dude was?
I think I know exactly where you're going with this, too.
Right. Can you imagine a Ted Washington-like player next to Ed Oliver?
Would be beautiful.
Right. So my guy from out of Texas, Devondre Sweat, senior, out of Texas, runs a 5.05 40. Now, you're like, that's not great, Mike. Yes, it is. He's 6'4", 362 pounds.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? He just was tearing it up, man. In the practices, if you watch any video, no matter who was trying to pass protect with him, there was no chance. So, Jake, I actually love this guy. And it looks like he could be a late second rounder based on what I'm hearing. Of course, like somebody said, Roy Collins, it all depends on how the board falls. We're always shocked. Like last year, who would have thought Torrance would have fallen to the second round? We were all a little upset that we didn't grab Torrance. Guy goes in the second round. And there were other players that fell further and further down the draft that we were like, what the heck's going on? I'm a little old, so I can't remember those names. Maybe you can remember some of those guys that we talked about. And like, man, they went to the third, fourth, or even fifth round. When we had them,
crazy.
When we had them at second round.
DeJuan Jones, that was a guy, fourth round. That was one of the
guys,
Yeah.
DeJuan Jones. So Devondre Sweat, senior, dude, we were to get him in the second.
Oh yeah.
Woo, watch out right there. We don't need any more defensive linemen. We just play him, 100% of the snaps.
I agree.
I mean, him and Ed Oliver would be a wrecking ball. So
Yep.
let me throw it back to you for your next guy.
Oh my gosh. Well, you did steal one of my prospects there,
Beautiful,
T'Vondre Sweat. I
beautiful.
had to mention it. If you saw any of his one-on-ones, that was the most impressive. I
Yeah.
mean, he went up against Bo Limmer and he just absolutely bullied him. And Bo Limmer's a good center out of Arkansas. This kid's probably a 3rd round, maybe 4th round pick for them. And gosh, just domination. So he'll probably be climbing up some boards, I assume, going into draft season here. He's an unreal player. Yeah, honestly, I would like Xavier Leggett in the first and then T'Vondre Sweat in the second. I think that'd be incredible. Like back-to-back great picks right there. But another guy that, I thought really, really impressed this week was Darius Robinson out of Missouri. He is like Chris Jones 2.0. So this kid, I think there were some doubts on him coming into this week, but he had a really, really strong Senior Bowl. Now, for his height and weight, he's like 6'6", 287. And it's interesting because he played every single position on the defensive line. I think he really proved that this week that he could do it. He could play in a 3-4 scheme or a 4-3 scheme. A lot of people are comparing him to Cam Jordan. That's been a very constant comparison for him. But also, like I said, Chris Jones is another name that comes to mind just based on size and the ability for him to kind of move all over the defensive line. Now, the only problem with him is I do think he's probably going to be a 1st-round pick now after the strong showing that he had at the Senior Bowl. And honestly, my first priority is getting Josh Allen a weapon. So if there's a chance that he slips to the second, I think it's a guy that you have to consider.
All right, I like that. Yeah, Striker Viewer also had Sweat listed on it. I think he gave me 5 or 6 names. Who we would like to see.
Yeah, we've been talking about
Yeah.
T'Vondre Sweat the last couple of shows here. I'm all for it. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. So I have another interior guy, but I'm gonna have him last. I had 4 guys on my list. The next one, again, for me, I want to get a linebacker. And it doesn't have to be an early rounder, 3rd, 4th. I want another linebacker. And the guy that really stood out in the Senior Bowl this year was Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky. He's 6'1", Jake, but he's 244 pounds. And he, again, you know me in linebackers, I like those 6'3", 6'4" guys just because, get those hands up, knock the foot, coverage when you're going against a taller tight end. I like the height. But this guy, and I don't like how they did this. They actually broke it down to where he was able to run 19.42 miles per hour, which is the fastest of all the linebackers. It's crazy to me. It's like, how do I convert that to a 40-yard dash? And I tried to. There's some calculators out there. So somewhere around a 4.4, some of the calculators were saying even faster. So, dude, 6'1", 244. I want that guy who can kind of help with the run support, but he's also getting great grades in coverage. Give me that all day, man. Give me that all day. Because I always say our linebackers are a little bit small. And most likely we're going to probably lose Dotson, which at the start of the season, it'd be crazy for me to be saying, man, I'm going to miss Dotson. But he had a good year for us, man. I think we're going to talk about free agents and what their market value might be and whether we sign them back. But Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky, 6'1", 244, very fast. Great run support, great, coverage as well. So I'm big on that one. So there you go.
I love it.
I'll throw it back to you, sir.
That's a good name. Yeah. So 2 receivers. Now I'm going to do 2 defensive interior guys. So I already listed Darius Robinson, another guy, Gabe Hall out of Baylor. So I thought he had a really, really good week. He did a lot of good things for his draft stock as well. Also a similar size, height, weight wise to Darius Robinson, who I also mentioned. Now, this guy I think is a day 2 pick for sure. 6'6", so he's 6'6", 287. I'm sorry. Darius Robinson, 6'5", 286. So close, pretty close in height and weight. But one of the things that I like with him, just his length, his ability to get his hands up. He was awesome in practice all week. This dude is really as good as it gets. And again, another guy that you can kind of shift across the entire defensive line. So I like having a dude like that in comparison to like It's great having a house of a human being like Tavondre Sweat, but I also like a guy that can also initiate some pass rush himself and essentially be like a Chris Jones 2.0. I mean, you saw the damage that he did to us in that last game that we played against the Chiefs and what he's done in the entire playoffs this year. So having a dude like that would be fantastic. And then a guy that's a dude you consider maybe in the second or third round again, like I mentioned. You're on mute, Mike.
Sorry, my dog was barking for some reason. So
okay.
I'm like, oh my God, I hope everyone can't hear it. She usually doesn't bark, so I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
But sticking with the interior again, so to fill out my list, again, I came up with 4. There are a lot of players that are getting high marks at the Senior Bowl, but I was kind of like looking for players because I know we want wide receivers early, first round potentially. Guys that we can maybe get a little bit later down because we have a ton of picks. How many picks do we have again? Like 9,
I think we're at about 9
10?
picks. Yeah, it's a lot.
That's something ridiculous. I know the chat will have it. But another guy who had a really good week was Florida State defensive tackle Braden Fisk. And I think I'm saying that right. I don't know if it's Fiske. Yep. He's got the E at the end. No,
you're right.
Fisk. Yep. All right. They actually had to swap him. They had to actually have him play for the, what do they have? The American and the national team.
Yeah.
They had to put him over on the national team because they had a shortage of linemen during the Senior Bowl, which is crazy. But he had a great week. And this is a guy you can probably get in the later rounds. He's 6'3", 295, runs a 5.1. So he's played 5 years of college. And he had some in his last 2 years, Jake, he had 78 total pressures in his last 2 senior years. So that's a guy I want, a guy I like, and a guy I think you can get in later rounds, maybe a 3rd, 4th, or even 5th he might fall to, unless he rises up the board because of what he did at the Senior Bowl, which is always possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. That's a dude that I've been watching some tape on lately, Mike, and I'll second that. Yeah, I mean, the dude is always around the quarterback no matter what. It's crazy to see. And you turn on a few of those ACC games especially, he just dominated. Absolutely dominated. So, yeah, love to see it.
Yeah, it's funny here. Yes. For me, Roy, if I could, and in my little office, I can. It's Christmas all year round. Now, my wife, she will take them down. She has 1 week after Christmas.
Day after.
And they're out of here. They're out of here.
That's how my wife is too.
If I could, I'd keep the decorations up all year. So I'm going to keep these going. And yes, that is a Christmas tree, and you do see some Christmas lights because it's the best time of the year. Why not keep it going?
Right.
Trek Reviewer says, I saw a highlight where Texas was playing Sweat at fullback. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the tush push with Sweat behind Josh Allen? You're not stopping that.
I know.
As a matter of fact, it might hurt Josh. So I'm a little worried about
that. Yeah, seriously. Yep. About the only guy that could really take Josh Allen down as his own player, and that would be Tavondre Sweat if that was the case. Hilarious. Yeah.
All right, Jake, who else do you have on your list, sir? Because I'd
be remiss. I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight this player. This is a guy that Sean Kula, our very own Sean Kula, is obsessed with. And I thought he had a fantastic Senior Bowl week and proved why he is the best interior offensive lineman in this draft class. Yes, I said it. I know there's a lot of good players in this draft class on the offensive line. This dude is a stud. He's going to be unbelievable at the next level. Jackson Powers Johnson. The dude is a wrecking ball. He could play guard or center. He's super athletic. Honestly, what I love with him too, something that he would bring to the table for us, something that really has been non-existent in our offense, gives you the ability to run a screen game because he's so damn good at getting out in front, and he could do it from the center spot, which is just even more, just so damn impressive. You talk about a guy that could eventually replace Mitch Morse. This is a dude that maybe you consider. And listen, I think if it's a different year, I'm all in on it. I'm not totally all in on it just because I want a receiver in the first round. But this is a very good talent. And if maybe the receiver that we really, really want isn't there and we have to, go to the second round and maybe draft a guy like Brendan Rice and somehow this dude's on the board, we got to maybe consider it and maybe take him. I love the kid a lot. And I know Sean Kula is going to be super fired up when he watches this and here's my take on it.
What is his What's his height and weight?
He's like 6'3", 320 around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of with you, and I told Sean this as well. I love the pick, except Mitch is going to play another year,
Right.
unless he decides to hang it up, which he had a concussion-free year, which was fantastic. That was the concern last year. Is he going to play? He's had like 6. I don't know. He's had a bunch of concussions. I don't know the exact number, but he had plenty, and that's always a concern. Morse had a really good year, and I think he's going to bring it again. Do I want depth behind him? Absolutely. I would love a kid like this to come in, but unfortunately, if you take him in the first round, I want a guy who can contribute.
It's going to play
right away and make a difference. You do have Bates as a backup to Morse in a pinch. You do have Bates. Bates can pretty much play anywhere on the line, and I know Sean's not a big fan of Bates, but he's serviceable. So I would love it if we can get him, but I'm not taking him in the first round, unfortunately.
No, I agree. I just had to highlight him just because I know that's Sean's guy, and he is a really, really good talent. And I agree with what Sean's saying. Like, he is the best interior offensive lineman prospect in this draft class. So you got to talk about him a little bit. And maybe it's a conversation the Bills have. Like I said, if, there's potential that 9 receivers are taken in the first round this year, Mike. It's crazy.
Wow.
Like, the amount of depth that there is at the receiver class this year is incredible. So you could still get a guy in the second round like Tez Walker or Brendan Rice, like I said, that have like that first round talent. Even Xavier Leggett may perchance slip to the second. It'll be early second, but still, there's still an opportunity. I feel like if we don't get that guy in the first, you can maybe move up in the second and still get a really, really good wide receiver 1 value out of this class.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I already mentioned like Roman Wilson right now, he's projected to go around the 3rd round. So
that's wild. I don't see that.
Again, it depends on where you look, what board you're looking at. But as Roy mentioned earlier, things will change as it gets closer to draft. All right, who else you got on your list, sir?
I got one more, and that's Cameron Kinches, a guy that I know for a fact the Bills interviewed this week, and a dude that talked very highly of the Bills scheme, Sean McDermott. Talked about Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. He's watched a lot of tape on those dudes. He's 6 foot 205 and a very worthy candidate to come in day one and be a starting safety for the Buffalo Bills. He fits really well in a zone scheme as well. I think he'd be excellent. And I know he doesn't fit your criteria of being, 6'4", but you said for safety, the criteria is 6 foot and above, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
So he fits that 6 foot, 205, really, really good player. Good tackler as well, not afraid to come up and play at the line of scrimmage. So love the value that he presents. And actually, so some people have him going in the first, other people have him going in the second. I've done a few mock drafts, Mike, with the PFF simulator where I've gotten him in the second at that like 54th overall pick. So not bad.
Nice,
so if there's a chance that he slips, I'd be all for it.
I love that because we definitely need something at safety. I mean, I've been ruined because of Kyle Hamilton. I haven't seen the guy much, but I watched that last game with Jonah, and the Ravens safety is incredible. I mean, you don't usually find these guys. What is he? 6'4", he's 220 playing safety. Oh my God,
it's crazy.
He is amazing. So now I'm like, I want a Kyle Hamilton on our team, but you're just not going to find those. But yeah, 6 foot or more. Got to be tall, Jake. Got to be physical. Got to have some weight to you. Yeah, I'm all for it. We know we definitely need a safety. I'd be curious. Let me just, before we pivot to the free agents, let me go over Trek Revere's list real quick.
Yeah.
All right. So he had Johnny Wilson. He wants us to get Johnny. Love it. We've talked about him. Brendan Rice from USC. Did you talk about, I think you just mentioned him, right?
Yeah, Brendan Rice. That's Jerry Rice's son, by the way.
Yeah,
so great bloodlines there.
Yeah. I'm all for that. 6'2", 212, runs a 4.38. I mean, come on. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Jerry, his dad's going to be very proud. Talked about Roman Wilson already. That was on his list. He's got a running back on here, which is Audric
Esteem from Notre Dame.
5'11", 227.
Put up numbers this year.
Well, I like that one, but then he had another running back who I like even better. And this is truly
the Wisconsin kid,
because of the size. Yeah, it's Braylon Allen. 262, 245 pounds and runs a 4.4.
Yeah.
Are you in the 4? Are you kidding me? Has a 30-inch vertical.
Right.
I mean, I haven't looked to see where this guy might be falling on the boards, but because let's talk about that for a minute. We have James Cook. Obviously, Lenny signed with us. He's gone. Murray, he's a free agent as well. We're going to bring him back. I don't know. Maybe you can get him on the cheap, but we need somebody back
Yeah.
there. So I think you do potentially draft with all the picks we have, Jake. You can get. I don't know where this guy would fall. Any idea where you think he might fall right now?
Probably fourth, fifth round. That's what they're saying,
There you
which is
go.
kind of crazy because I've seen him. I've seen actually as early as like early third round too. And for a guy that size to be running that fast is like, holy smokes, But yeah, he's definitely going to be a day 3 pick in my mind. I have him. I think he can do some things at the combine that would only help his draft stock. Yeah, I've seen that too. I think fourth, fifth round is probably about right for him.
Yeah, man, I'm taking that all day.
Yeah.
And then if KC cannot sign Chris Jones in the offseason, I would like them to think about getting Robinson from Missouri. Got to see him play a few times.
Oh, he's unreal, man. Yeah,
Is he?
Darius Robinson, he's the real deal. And yeah, Chris Jones 2.0. That's my comparison.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good
They
stuff,
say
guys.
Cam Jordan too. That was another comparison that he got if he plays the DN position. But I think he's so darn good where he can play literally every role on the defensive line, and that just reminds me of your guy there, Chad. So yeah, that'd be a really good get for you guys.
Yeah, so that was fun. We're going to get into more draft stuff after free agency. You'll see us start hitting that. Just having full shows, just on doing mock drafts. What it looks like, what the boards, as the boards change. It's always fun to see, if we started to do mock drafts now, what things look like when it gets closer to the draft, because they start changing, and it's fun to watch that. It's fun to try to hit some of those that you had on your mock draft. But now I want to go into some free agency talk, because that's next up, right? Free agencies before the draft. It's around March 15th, I think, something like that is when people can start being signed. And first of all, I wanted to go through the list of all the Buffalo Bills free agents. Oh my goodness, are we even going to be able to field the team this year? I don't know, but I'm going to bring up this list, and I'm going to give you what their market is. And again, I'm using Spot Track for this. I hope some of you did your homework assignment I gave you last week. But I want to ask you, let me bring it up, and I want you to tell me if you think we should re-sign them at that price, or if are you done with them? You think it's time to move on, save that money, and put it elsewhere? So let me bring it up, and I would love the chat to be doing this. And let's see here. I like doing mock drafts because I don't know a damn thing about these college prospects.
No, it definitely helps when you see the name repetitively like that too. It definitely, you're like, okay, this guy played for this team and he looks like he's going to probably go in this round. It definitely does help for sure.
Jake,
it is in Detroit.
Is it? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, let me present my screen here. Share a screen. Let's do this one over here, right here. All right. Let me bring that up here. Add to the stage.
There we go, baby.
All right. So let me bring this up, make this as large as possible for everyone's viewing pleasure. So there we go. Let's look at this list, Jake. My gosh, this
is pretty alarming.
These are all unrestricted free agents for the Buffalo Bills. So let's start at the top and move down. So Micah Hyde, he is projected to have market value at $1.7 million, and you can sign him on a 1-year deal.
That's wild, and I'm kind of tempted, but I'm going to say no.
Okay.
I think it's time to part ways. He's basically made it known, like he put a letter out to Buffalo. His wife put a letter out to Buffalo, kind of made it known that he's most likely not going to be back. He's probably already had that conversation with the organization. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So
yeah, that's pretty wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So you have even more than us, which is insane. So that's going to be interesting for you guys as well. We're all in cap out. By the way, currently, right now, Buffalo Bills are $50 million over the cap. So it's going to be interesting. And we'll get into all how you can restructuring contracts, how you can get some money. And that's why, when we start talking about some of the free agents that we might want to target, Jake, honestly, I think the Bills are just going to add some depth pieces. I don't think they're going to be able to, again, we'll talk about this more.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be able to sign any of these big names based on the cap, but there are some decent depth players, and maybe someone like, for instance, Trent Sherfield. I'll talk about the guy that I'm looking to replace him, who I think's a better version of Trent Sherfield and who you could get at a better price than what we paid Sherfield this year. But anyhow, let's get back to it here. So we got Micah Hyde with the no. Daquan Jones, market value. He's 32 years old. Spot Track believes his market value is $6.8 million, and you can sign him for a 1-year deal.
Man, he made such a difference in that defense. I can't see saying no to this. That's just that's a big price to pay though still. And when there are guys available in the draft like T'Vondre Sweat, that's tough. That's really, really tough for me. I'm really on the fence with this one, Mike. What do you think? Let me get your thoughts on it.
I mean, he was playing so well before the injury, and then he came back. He only had a few games that, I mean, first of all, we were shocked that he even came back this season. So he did, and he came back, and, you know, I can't say any, honestly, I didn't expect him to get back to the form. He's 32 years old, not easy to recover. But the fact that he got in there told me a lot about him, but it also was his contract. You know, he's playing for money next year. So it was good for him to come back and play a little bit more. 6.8 is a lot, Jake. And
yeah, it is.
I can't say no to all these guys, but I'm kind of with you based on some of the talent that we saw in the draft. And maybe someone, again, I didn't see anyone really great in free agency that would, you know, fill a Daquan Jones, but maybe you have somebody on your list. 6.8 for me
that's a pretty hefty price.
It is. So I'm going to say no. I would like to see what the chat's saying here with Roy and Trek Viewer and Chad. I know you're more of a Chiefs guy, but Daquan Jones, guys, where do you fall on that? Keep him?
I also think this is a different conversation if he's like 30 instead of 32.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? Like maybe you get him on a 2-year deal then for like, you know, 13 million or something like that. So, I would definitely be open to that. But I think the fact that he's 32 years old too, it's hard to justify. So I'm going to say no.
All right, Roy's saying that re-sign him. Roy thinks Hyde retires, and that's probably the right thing. I mean, he came off that neck injury from last year, and he had a couple stingers this year, which is really scary. So to me, that coincides with the injury that he had, and I wouldn't risk it. I mean, if I know he wants to win a ring, and he feels the team's good enough, and like Chad said in the chat here, both him and Poyer are or were two of the best, but we saw the age come into play last year, Chad. We saw the age. We need to get younger at that spot, and for Hyde's sake, I'd like to see him retire, honestly.
What's your price tag for Daquan Jones, by the way? So if we were to re-sign him, what would you be comfortable with?
4 to 5, 4.5.
That's where I'm at too. Yeah. So I would say if we can get him at that price, absolutely resign him. But at 6.8 million, I don't think we can do it.
How is Jones' market value higher than Epinesa?
Yeah, that is wild to me. I've seen that. AJ Epinesa, what do they have? 5.6 million, which is crazy. And I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's a guy that I will absolutely resign.
All right, since we jumped down there, since you guys are cheating, let's
go
all
in on AJ Epinesa.
We'll talk about him a little bit.
Yes.
I think we both are. I mean, how I don't even want to give a however. He's an up and down guy, but I like what you said last show or whenever you said at one of our past shows. Get him more time out there. Get him more snaps, because it seems like he has some great plays, and then we don't see anything from him when it matters. He is injury prone. Seems to get injured quite a bit every season for a few games or so. But yeah, I'm with you. If they start giving him more snap counts and we see him on the field more, I think you'll start seeing more of those bigger plays that you're expecting. So I'm with you on that one.
Agreed. And kind of staying with this theme, so we're going on to Leonard Floyd here. I've seen some mock drafts where they have the Buffalo Bills taking a defensive end or an edge rusher in the first round, and I'm just like, we've had this experiment way too many times here in Buffalo. I do not want to take another defensive end in the draft. I'm just not about it. Bring back AJ Epinesa, a guy that has built rapport. He knows the system. He's still young. He's only 25 years old, Mike. And the dude, when he's been out there on the field, he's had very productive moments. The dude has one of the best get-offs on the ball in all the NFL. Just give him some time to be out there. Let him be a full-time starter this year and see what happens. I think it's definitely worth $5.6 million a year for 2 years? Absolutely. Why wouldn't you?
So unfortunately, Leonard Floyd had a good year with us. Had what, 10 sacks? Did he hit that mark?
10 and a half.
Right, 10 and a
Yeah.
half. However, he
Yeah.
kind of
First guy since Lorenzo Alexander record 10 plus sacks in a season. Pretty crazy.
yeah, I mean, he's 31 and he kind of fell off at the end of the season. I think
He did.
a few of them did, but Floyd did. So I feel like, because of his age, he's a rotational piece, which he was for us. I don't know what happened. I know what happened at the end of the season where he kind of fell off. So I'm saying for that price, there's no way I see that happening.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. I think you're already like, there's such a thing too, where you have so many guys at one position group that it almost muddies the water in that position group within the locker room. I
Yeah.
think going into this season, our solidified defensive ends need to be named. Obviously, Greg Rousseau is one of them. The other is going to be AJ Epinesa, with Von Miller being more of a rotational guy. That's just how I think it's going to play out. And that's, of course, if we do sign AJ Epinesa back to the team. So I feel like you bring Leonard Floyd back, there's still like that whole, well, look how much we paid him. Then it's going to cut into AJ Epinesa's time too if he gets re-signed. So I don't like the move. And listen, for as good as he did, I appreciated his time here. He even said it himself. He's going to go where the money is. So I just feel like I can't justify paying him that much money.
Yes, John Roberts here, and he's heard $8 million per season.
Yeah, I could see that. That's what I would actually expect for a guy like that. I'm very surprised to see $5.6 million. Just
I don't know. Maybe to me, if he would have had more sacks on the board, I think he would have seen that number rise. But honestly, Jake, in his career, we've seen times where he shined, but there's been more times where he hasn't, if that makes sense. So I don't know if 8 million seems like a lot to me. But you never know, John. You could be right. It really depends on what the market's willing to pay. And, when they start paying people in the free agency, that's going to set the market, and we'll see what AJ goes for. But I'm hoping Spot Track's right.
Yeah. Actually, I want to see something too. I'm looking right now at Leonard Floyd's stats this season, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those sacks, majority of them came up through Thanksgiving. After that, he only had 1 sack. After November 19th, he only registered 1 sack, Mike.
Yeah.
That's not great. We don't like seeing that.
No, it's not. It's not. I don't know if his snap count dropped or not. Do you have that? Like,
I don't have the
games?
snap counts on here.
Okay.
No, I don't have that. But yeah, that's just interesting to see. It's almost like the Steph Diggs effect.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
He has 2.5 sacks against the Jets on 11-19, and then after that, he was pretty much invisible. Crazy to see. So
Tim Settle, I think, Tim Settle, we paid him $10 million. So he's obviously going to be cheaper now because he didn't have a great 2 years with us. Market value is 3.7. I didn't see anything promising. It's a definite no for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a position group at the defensive tackle position where you build through cheap labor in the draft.
All right, so some guys here that you can sign on the cheap. You tell me, Jordan Phillips. I mean, he made
a lot of
close to $3 million last year.
He made a lot of stupid penalties this year too. I love his emotion. He gets the crowd into it, but I'm going to say no for right now.
Okay, I'm with you there. I didn't see anything that would make me want to.
He has those splash moments still, but like, there's too many other things that come with him. There's like some baggage, I almost feel like. And at 31 years old too, again, I think, the defensive tackle room, that's a position group where you're going to build through the draft.
All right, so I saw Trek reviewers saying yes to Phillips as a 5DT, so I'm going to list that there. And Roy says no Phillips, sucks against the run, injury prone.
That's true too. Yeah, he is injury prone. Yeah.
Now I'm going to say chat was mixed, which I expect. Or mixed.
Yeah.
All right. Tyler Matakavich, 31 years old,
No.
Great special teams guy, but come on. 2.5 million.
I mean, I can't justify it. I'm sorry. We're trying to save cap room, not spend it on special teamers. Love Tyler Matakavich. He's a captain on this team. I'm going to say no, though.
Okay. The chat chimes in. What you think about Tyler? Poona Ford, obviously a no for me. Jake?
Yeah, I wanted to see more of that. I really felt like Poona was going to have a good season with us, but him being a healthy scratch for majority of the season, finally getting his shot, He did some nice things, but it wasn't enough for me to be like, yeah, we got to bring him back. I just can't do that.
Yeah, I agree. Let me know. Let me know chat about Puna Ford. It's a no from Jake and I. This is an interesting one, and I don't know if Spot Track's got this wrong, but Dane Jackson, they're saying market value of 3.1 million on a 1 year deal. The dude's only 27 years old, and I feel like he's been very, very serviceable for us.
Oh, for sure.
And I feel like, I mean, when Levi Wallace left, he got 4 million. He didn't get a lot. So, and I don't know, would you put Dane right there with Levi Wallace type
Absolutely
talent?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would.
So 3.1, if we get him for that, I'm a definite yes.
Oh, I'm ecstatic if we get him for that. I'm put a hell yes next to that one, Mike.
I would put a hell yes next to that, as a matter of fact. Hell yes.
Love it. Nice.
What's the chat think about Dane Jackson, folks?
Looks like Trek Reviewer's all in.
Oh, he said yes.
Anything to keep Cam off the roster, right, Trek Reviewer?
No. We're gonna get to Cam. He's an unrestricted free agent as well. Dotson, good for him. 4.8. Man, I mean, what a year to have a good year, right? He comes in, has a great year. It didn't look like he was even going to be a starter. He wouldn't have been until Matt Milano goes down, and he comes in and has a really good year. And congrats to him. He set himself up for a nice payday. Market price has him at 4.8. They're saying a 3-year deal for a total of 14.4. Jake, let me ask you first. You signing him back, or if you can get him for 4.8 a year, that's not that expensive.
It's not too bad, but I just, there's other position groups where we like he's, we're going to get Matt Milano back, and we still have Dorian Williams as a backup too. Don't forget. And with the season that Terrell Bernard had, I mean, he had literally an all-pro season himself. So I feel like 4.8 million for a backup linebacker right now, that he would be a backup on this team. You got to say no.
Okay. And hey, if you draft one of the guys I just talked about,
yeah, for sure,
we're good to go. All right, Taylor Rapp, projected market value is 5.4 million, and for 2 years. I want to see, he's young. Look, he's 26 years old. I didn't really see, I guess, what did I expect of him? I expected more plays, more. When I say plays, more game changers, some INTs. I don't know, and more tackles around the line of scrimmage, utilizing them in that way. I don't know if the Bills really did utilize them the way I kind of expected, but I don't know. It's been a little bit of a disappointment for me, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here.
Sure. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Taylor?
I would say, I would actually be saying no to this if it wasn't for like the last 3 weeks of the season for him, because I thought he really played well down the stretch and showed what he was capable of doing. I think it's hard when you have like 3 guys, at the safety position, and Taylor Rapp's just being rotated in. It's like almost the AJ Epinesa thing. Like I said, I mean, you don't give the guy enough time to be on the field and to kind of settle in. So for him, I'm going to say yes. I think this is a guy that's young. He's started meaningful games in the past, and he's been really good. Like, he was a really good safety with the Rams. So I think you give him the benefit of the doubt, lock him in, re-sign him. Jordan Poyer, another guy that you keep on the team. I'm not going to say we cut him. And then you go draft your safety maybe in the 2nd or 3rd round to eventually replace Jordan Poyer. And then you have your safeties locked up for the future there.
Yeah, you are right. Who did he make that game-ending interception
against? That was against the Dolphins.
The Dolphins, okay.
For the division. Yeah. I mean, that's a big moment,
It was perfect. And, of course, he got hurt, and we didn't get to see him again after that. But I'm with you. I like the youth, 26. We got to get younger. And like you said, he's got a Super Bowl ring. And, I'm going to blame it on the defensive scheme, how they used him. And it's not a starter, right? Poyer and Hyde, but they were rotating him in from time to time. So I'm with you. I think the channel's with us.
Yeah. So Roy says Rapp on the cheap, not at 5.4 million. I understand that take too, just because it was a disappointing season. But again, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I do think he's worth that price just based on the other safeties that are going to be free agents this year.
Probably. All right, Sherfield. I think that's a no for everybody.
Yeah, that's definitely
We've seen enough. And again, when the Bills watch this show, all these players, because they do watch our
They're gonna
show,
be,
I want
yeah,
to give no disrespect. Thank you for your time. We're just
yes,
trying to be businessmen, sort of like the NFL is a business. And I know it's cold sometimes, but I'm sure Trent Sherfield will find his way to another team. So no disrespect to any of these guys. It feels like sometimes we're treating them like a piece of meat and we're just throwing them out
right,
the door.
yeah,
But hey, don't want to come off as that. Just kind of be trying to be realistic. So Buffalo Bills players that do religiously watch our show, and we know there's a few of them, especially Josh watches it, right, Jake? You get texts
oh
from
yeah.
Josh all the time.
Right before bed, he turns us on. He likes to listen to your voice, Mike. It's very soothing.
All right. So David Edwards, Big L saying yes
Yeah,
already,
yeah, I
and Roy
definitely
saying
resign
yes.
him
All right.
for sure.
Again,
Yep.
you can get him. Interesting. I mean, I would think we paid him 1.7, probably in for a little bit of a raise this year.
Yeah, I would say, probably 2 million, right around there.
Damian Harris, I'm saying it's a no, just because of
Yeah, that's
his
a no.
injury, and who
Injury
knows, he
history.
might not even come back. Honestly,
Yeah, and it sucks. I was excited about him because he did some good things in New
yeah.
England, and it seemed whenever he played the Bills, he would always go off. So I was excited for an opportunity to, have him potentially be like 1A, 1B with James Cook, but obviously another injury. He's out for the year and just didn't pan out.
All right. So wait a minute. Somebody's saying Dane Jackson should be a mix. So I'll put him in as a mix from the chat.
Hmm.
And what did he say?
I don't know, Roy. I just feel like so with Dane, he's been tested, and I feel like he's risen to the occasion on multiple times, like where it's a clear disadvantage for him, but I think he's played above what expectations are.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he's perfect, but I really do feel like he's a solid player, and if we have to lean on him, he can start for us.
yeah, I agree. I'm with you there. Let's see, Linville. So Linville's 35. Hey, he came off, his couch was serviceable,
Yeah.
but towards the end of the season, I saw him playing more on his back than I
Yeah.
wished had hoped to see. So it's going to be a no for me. What do you
These guys
think?
are saying in the chat, they're saying practice squad for Linval Joseph.
Okay,
I'd be all right with that. I would be totally cool with that.
sure.
But I'm going to say for active roster, for this sake, no.
No, I mean, you can get him on the cheap for sure, and if he's still willing to play, um, why not? Why not? I'm okay with that. Shaq Lawson. Here's an interesting one. What's everyone saying about Shaq?
Shaq just disappeared. Like a guy that was so well known for, stopping the run. He couldn't even set the edge. Like there were just a lot of things. I feel like he took a step back this year. So I'm going to say no. And I love Shaq Lawson. No disrespect to him, but I feel like there's other players at that position that, we could bring in, even if we wanted to bring in some depth that would be better than Shaq Lawson.
Fully agree. Didn't
And
see
he'll
much.
probably end up somewhere else. I don't think he's going to be a
Yeah.
practice squad or dad. I think he will end up somewhere else. But yeah, for us, I feel like that's about it.
So let's see. What's the chat saying about Mr. Shaq Lawson? I don't think I've seen a hit on him yet, or
My dad says
message.
practice squad.
Practice squad.
Man.
All right, I'm gonna put PS for practice squad. Murray, you're gonna get him cheap.
No.
You're gonna get him cheap, but he's 34.
Yeah. Well, so Trek Reviewer mentioned all those names, that we could maybe take in the 4th, 5th, 6th round in the draft that are going to come in and they're going to be fresher.
Yeah.
And actually, if you want to talk about a free agent, I'm going to foreshadow a little bit. There's a guy named AJ Dillon that's going to be a free agent this year, Mike. So maybe you upgrade there and you sign a guy like that.
Wonder what he's probably going to command a pretty good payday, I would think. Maybe.
Yeah, he had a down year though in Green
Yeah.
Bay. He kind of struggled a little bit himself, but maybe a change of scenery might help him out a little bit. And that's a dude. You talk about a big back. He's 240 something pounds himself.
He's also very injury prone as well.
He is.
That's probably what's going to hurt his market value. Let's see here. What did Murray say? What are folks saying on Murray? Murray, no. Lawson, no. All right.
Lawson, UFL. Wow.
I like it. All right, let's go to Kyle Allen. I mean, you're going to get him on the cheap. Nobody's going to be giving him a lot of money unless you can get somebody better. I'm going to say yes for now. For me,
Josh is going to vouch for him. Let's say yes for Josh.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Jake, because with all the draft picks, do you draft a quarterback at some time? At some
Yeah, I've
point
seen some mocks with us taking the guy. Yeah.
to maybe, get on the team, you let go of Kyle Allen next year or sometime,
Yeah.
or, get a young guy who has potential.
How about
And yeah,
Talia Tagovailoa to his brother? Take him out of Maryland in like the 5th
nice.
round or something. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah. What's everyone saying about Kyle Allen?
Kyle Allen, who
No?
cares? Draft a QB late. Yeah,
All right.
that's fair.
All right, we're gonna say no
Um,
from the chat.
yeah, it looks like no. It looks like no from the chat.
Okay. Again, for me, it's like if you get who are you gonna get out there for that cheap? Draft somebody. You're right. I do like that. With all those picks, get a quarterback on the roster that's younger, strong arm, can run. It's not that Kyle's that old. He's only going to be 28 years old. Here we go.
Right.
The biggest one on the list right here, Cam Lewis. And you absolutely got to pay him whatever he wants to stay on this team. He's the most versatile guy on this list. Cam, UFL third. No, not at all. There is no way I'm saying you don't keep this guy. He plays special teams. He can play slot corner. He can play safety. He had a couple games, one game where he really showed up, one game where people were like, oh, there it is. Cam letting us down. What's your take, Mr. Jake Podger? What are you thinking?
I think at 1.185 mil, why not? I would say yes. He's a really good special teams player. I mean, he's been sprinkled into our defense a few times, and sometimes he's a liability. I'll give you that, Trek reviewer, but this is a dude that could play nickel. He could play safety, and he's good on specials. And hey, we didn't re-sign Tyler Matakevich. Let's at least re-sign one of our specials guys, So I think Cam Lewis, I'm going to say yes for.
Okay, even if Jake had said no, I'm going to override him.
Look at this. Roy Collins, much praise for Cam Lewis. I love
it. Yes. So we're going to say mixed, obviously, in the chat. Big L, what was your take? What did Big L say? He just had a question mark.
He said yes.
All right.
Cam
good.
Lewis, yes.
We'll say mixed. Ty Johnson, I'm all for it, especially if you get him for that cheap. He's young.
Yeah.
I thought he looked really good. Let's bring him back. Probably.
Yeah, he definitely had a much better end of the year than Latavius Murray did. I think Ty Johnson got better as Latavius got worse. So, yeah, I'm going to say yes for that. And also a guy that can play specials, Ty Johnson.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see what Battlehawk's saying here. Bills need wide receivers, safeties, defensive tackle, edge, running back. Yeah.
So the edge thing, I'm going to disagree with. I just mentioned this. I actually don't want to go and take an edge early. Like if we take one in the later rounds, that's fine.
Yeah.
But to me, I want to go ahead and re-sign AJ Epinesa and have him be our starting defensive end this year. Him and Groot, and then Von Miller sprinkled in. And hopefully Von is playing like he did against the Chiefs, because honestly, he was our best defensive end that game.
Yeah, so here we go. Big game, Gabe. Market, dude. It's funny. You and I were talking. You're like, what would you be good with? 4 to 6 million. Market value has him at 13.6 a year. Jake, big game, Davis.
Wow.
After the year he had this year, which, I mean, can you bring up his stats real quick? I mean, let's talk about this for a second.
Let's see what we got. I think it was 700. Let's see. Gabe Davis. Okay, ready for this?
Yeah.
81 targets. He caught 45 passes for 746 yards.
Basically 50% completion rate.
55.6% completion percentage throwing to Gabe Davis this year.
How many
yards?
And
actually, so we finished with 746 yards. And last year, so this is interesting though. Last year, he had 93 targets, 48 catches. This year, 81 targets, 45 catches. His catch percentage was actually the second highest in his career this season. But even so, looking at the eye test, it was still essentially 50-50 for him. So I don't love that. And I'm no on this.
Yeah. Kind of sad on this one, but
yeah, I love Gabe. I really do. And good for him. He goes and gets his money. Maybe I've heard Atlanta and Jacksonville are going to maybe pursue him this year. I know Cole Beasley mentioned, he said, hey, Gabe, go down and play for Dallas. So curious.
You know who's going to take him? Dable's going to take him. you watch. Dable, we'll take him. Chris from the Pats on our rep says he loves Gabe Davis, and he's just one of those guys. Like he just hasn't been it for us this year. Last year was a little bit of a struggle, but people are going to look at that 2021 13-second game and see what he did. And then there was a game against the Steelers. Was it last year? I think it was last year.
Yeah,
where
last
he
year.
went
Yeah.
for that 98-yard
98
touchdown. He's got big play ability. Gabe's going to go somewhere, and I think he's just going to, have a rebound season. It's going to be unfortunate for us to see, but I just think he's priced out. I think we can get somebody else who can fill that role in the draft, like you were saying. You're selling me the draft, Jake. You sold me some things before that I wish I could get refunded, but I'm with you. I'm with you on this one. But
That's
Gabe's
funny.
a tough one for me. I really like the guy. He's a big physical guy, which I like. Good blocker, but you can't have your number two not having any targets. And again, that could be just the scheme or that he's just not getting separation. And it's just been a no-show way too many times.
Yeah, he's not a separation guy for sure. He makes tough catches in huge moments, though, which is wild. And then he'll drop easy ones. And I think that's just been like the epitome of his time here in Buffalo. But it is interesting. Of all of our receivers that have gotten time on the field, the snap count percentage, Gabe Davis is the highest. He's like high 90s. It's like 98 or 99% of the snaps Gabe Davis has been on the field for. Pretty wild.
He does those little things that you don't get noticed for.
Great blocker.
Yeah, exactly. I think for Quentin Morris, he is a restricted free agent. I think that's going to be a yes. Do you have any?
Yeah, I'll say yes for that. Good athlete.
The only thing I didn't get from the chat, maybe I missed it. What did they say from Puna Ford? And I also need to know what they said from Micah Hyde.
Yeah. So Micah Hyde was retiring.
Okay, they're saying
that's
retiring.
The majority, I think, on that one. Puna Ford. Let's see here.
Probably a no. I'd be shocked if
Puna wouldn't come back anyway.
Yeah, because he's been disappointed in how he was utilized for sure. He's made that clear, which is crazy because he came to play for Buffalo. He was willing to take a little bit less, felt that team could contend. He thought he could be a part of that, and they just didn't utilize him. I don't know if he realized that how much they rotate. Mixed on Morris, no Puna. Okay, cool.
Wow. Yeah.
Let me save this off so we can. So there it is, folks. The chat basically pretty much in sync with us. I think I don't want to say there's any big disagreements there, other than Dane Jackson, where we have a hell yes, and the chat is mixed on that one.
Isn't that something? That is wild.
How much
just so so we have one. I'm just counting our picks right now just to answer Battlehawk's question. Let's see, 3, 6. Wow, 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 10 picks, actually. 10 picks this year. Wow.
And do you have them listed like what rounds they are?
Yeah, so we have, let's see. It looks like we have 1 first rounder, 1 second, 1 third, 1 fourth, 2 fifths, 2 6 or no, 3 6 and a 7th. Wow. It's pretty good.
Well, we're gonna have to hit some gold in those late rounds. Well, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I expect them to kind of use some of those to kind of move up, maybe. Throw those in as part of a deal somewhere.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some movement there. There always is. Brandon Beane on draft day, it's always interesting to see what he does, and for the most part, I've liked what he's done. So, yeah, it'll be fun.
All right, Jake. So to finish up the show here, let's talk about a few free agents that might be out there who you realistically think we could get in channel. I hope you did some homework as well. I'd love to hear who you think. Obviously it'd be easy if you were like, get a Mike Evans. Did you take a look at what Mike Evans is going to command? I mean, it's something ridiculous. I'm going to bring up that information for folks just in case you're wondering here. Let me go over here.
Tampa needs to find a way to retain him. Like, you cannot let your all-time leading receiver go like that. That's just crazy to me. They have a good young team right now, too. Like, he's a good balance for that. And, like, I don't see him slowing down at all. Like, he is an absolute stud. So Tampa needs to find a way to bring him back.
So market value from Spot Track, get this, Jake, get this,
Yeah.
23.8 million a year.
Whew.
And they say he's going
Wow.
to get a 4-year deal. He's 30 years old.
Yeah.
And he's going to command some good money. So
No signs of slowing down, though, honestly. He's been killing it. He
he's
actually had a
not.
better year this year than
And if the Bills could make a splash play like that, for sure, would love to get him.
Right.
I'm just trying to be as realistic as possible. I could have easily said, yeah, go after this guy, go after all the top guys that are going to be like 20 plus million a year. I just know if we can get it done. I don't know the cap manipulation. I know there's a lot they can do. Bean has worked magic in the past, but I think we're getting to the point where you're not going to be able to work a lot of miracles these days. But we'll see.
This is the comment of the night right here by Roy. I'm a free agent, but I'll be 60 next month, so I'm pretty cheap. Nice.
Oh boy, Roy, what do we got to pay for you, man?
Do you see this?
No,
Chad saying Chris Jones wants $30 million a year. He's
So
30 years old.
wow.
He wants $30 million a year.
Let me
That is pretty
see
wild.
what Spot Track is saying for him. This is going to be interesting here. Let's see, Chris Jones. Let's see. I think he was paid 19.5 million average last year. If you look at what market value is, 28.4 million. So right around what he's
Sheesh.
asking, 30 million.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know, Chad. They gonna be able to afford that or figure that out? Because you guys got some.
The Chiefs are in cap hell too.
Cap
They're in a
is-
very
yeah.
similar boat. The only nice thing you guys got going is that you're in the Super Bowl this year with a chance to probably win it. Honestly, you guys are 2-point underdogs. I think they're giving you no respect.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's where I stood. I only have a couple, but I'm gonna start with you. Were there anybody that you looked in the free agency? Again, I don't think the Bills are going to be a big player with
Yeah.
all those draft picks. I think they're going to rely heavily on that and fill a couple depth pieces. I don't know if you're going to see a splash signing like you did a few years ago
Yeah.
with Von Miller. But let me throw it to you, Jake. What do you think?
So I've seen a couple names thrown around. One that I actually already mentioned, and these are not going to be exciting names, but one that I actually really did like was Donovan Peoples-Jones. The reason I like that so much, this year he didn't do much, but he's a year removed from having an 800-plus yard receiving season. He's a good target, big downfield target, 6'2", 204. Runs 4.4. He's got good speed. He's got really good game speed, and he's like, I don't even know the comp for him really. He's just a good. He's like Allen Robinson in his prime almost a little bit. That's what I liken him to. So I think you can get him on the cheap, and that's a dude that's an outside receiver that gives us a little more depth there, and obviously a chance to compete at the wide receiver too. I don't want that to be our wide receiver too. Like I said, I am all for taking one in the first round, but it's a good depth piece and a guy that we can get for the offense to give Josh another weapon. So that's one dude.
All right, let me give you. Let's go back and forth.
Yeah,
Let's rotate because
sure.
I have two, but you'll probably have a few more. This is going to be my Trent Sherfield replacement, and this is Van Jefferson. I mean,
Okay,
Van
nice.
Jefferson was a second round pick a few years back. The market price has him at 2.3 million. If you can get him
Yeah.
for that price, I'm all in. He's had pretty serviceable, very good years, decent years when you look at, who's been throwing the ball to him over there for the past few years, right? So I like Van Jefferson. So that would be one guy for me. Let me throw it back to you.
Yeah, and Van Jefferson, like, he was primed to be like a potential wide receiver one, but he had a tough injury, and I feel like he's slowly kind of building back to what he was. And actually, did he get hurt again this year, Van? I think he did. But no, I like that pick, Mike. I think that's a good name, and that's another guy kind of similar to Donovan Peoples-Jones in terms of like their height and weight, 6'1", 200. Van was on Atlanta. He got traded. That's right. He got traded to Atlanta this year. So, yeah, I think he's got a lot to prove. That would be a nice name for us to look at.
Yeah, it's just a depth piece. It's not like he's going to be starting for us, but I mean, I think he's an upgrade from Sherfield.
For sure. Yeah. I think so. We talked a little bit about defensive ends. Like, if you're going to bring in anyone at that defensive end spot on the real cheap, maybe you look at, you can't go ahead and re-sign Leonard Floyd, but if you want a guy similar to that, there's a dude in Baltimore who had a really good season this year, 9.5 sacks, still looking like he can play. And I don't know how much he's going to command. That's the thing. There were rumors that maybe he gets a nice big contract, but chances are I feel like he's going to be on the lower end. He's probably not going to command as much as Leonard Floyd, but Jadeveon Clowney, Mike, that would be an interesting name.
I saw him.
What is the market value on
Let
him?
me give you
I'm
the market
curious.
value on him. So he only made 2.5 million or
Yeah,
roughly
that's what I'm
last year.
saying.
So based on his year, I guess it shot up. So they're saying 7.2 million market value. So
Okay.
I think because he had a pretty good year, right?
Right. Well, two other names for you then. Justin Houston and Melvin Ingram. How about it? They're a little bit older. They would take vet minimum contracts, I'm sure, to try to win a ring. And they still got a little bit left in the tank.
Let me see what Justin. Yeah, you're gonna get him on the cheap. And you know me, Melvin Ingram for a depth piece. Absolutely. I mean, take him away from everyone else. You're gonna get him at the vet min. And honestly, he was sitting on the couch most of the year until I think the Dolphins snagged him back up again.
The Dolphins picked him up. Yeah, I mean, he was.
They had
he
him
looked
last
pretty
year.
cooked.
Yeah, but I mean, So I don't know about that one. So for me, the other guy that I had, the only other guy, again, more of a depth piece, and I'm sticking with the Jeffersons. Love the show, the Jeffersons, and I'm going with Quentin Jefferson, defensive tackle from the Jets. You can get him on the cheap. Let me give you his market price. Basically, he's 30 years old. He's going to be 31. He made about 3.6 million last year. So I'd imagine a 1-year deal somewhere, and it should be roughly right around that price, same price. He had a pretty decent year this year. So that would be it. And that's all I had, folks. I mean, there might be some other old linemen that we add as depth pieces. But that's all I had. Jake, what else do you have?
I'm gonna respectfully disagree with this one. So Justin Houston, believe it or not, is only a year removed, not even a full year removed from playing with the Ravens in 2022, where he had 9.5 sacks, and he looked like Justin Houston of like 2015. So he's 34 years old now. Yeah, he's definitely getting up there in the age group there. But speaking solely on a guy that can come in and sort of take over for like Leonard Floyd in that veteran role, and a guy that we can get on the very cheap, at the very least, he's a good locker room presence to have. I still think he's got just a little bit left in him.
All right.
And yeah, Chad, of all people, you would know a lot about Justin Houston. So really, really good player with the Chiefs.
All right. Who else you got there, Jake, to finish off the list?
There was one other name that I thought was interesting, Tayshaun Gibson. Safety from the 49ers. He's bounced around a little bit, had a Pro Bowl season here and there. Another guy that we can get on the cheap and add some depth to that safety room, a guy that can actually come in and maybe start for us at safety too.
What was his
if
name?
we don't get Taylor Rapp? Tayshaun Gibson.
Why am I not? Oh, I know I am not seeing him. Hold on one sec.
Just another veteran presence. The only thing is, honestly, I don't want to get any older at safety. I want to get younger there. So this is only if we maybe can't re-sign Taylor Rapp and we don't get a guy in the draft that's, potential of starting right away.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that guy. Only Gibson I see available is Antonio Gibson. So interesting.
Okay.
I must be missing it.
Well, let me see, actually. What did he sign for?
You know who I wanted? I talked to you about Cam Curl. Dude, the market value for that kid skyrocketed. It's crazy.
Well, that's one dude I want you to watch this weekend, or I guess, coming up. Tayshaun Gibson. He'll be playing in the Super Bowl, so you'll have plenty of time to evaluate. But that was a guy that I thought about. Kyle Duggar, that's a good name, Trek Reviewer. I think he's going to command quite a bit.
Oh, he is. I looked at him as well. So Cameron Curl, who I was talking about, safety from Washington, only 24 years old. He's expected to get a huge payday at $14.4 million a year.
Wow.
For 4 years.
Well, he's earned it. That's for sure.
He really has. He's good. And then you said Duggar. Yeah, I was like, oh, I'd love to get Duggar, because Duggar, it feels like he's been around a long time, but he's still young, man.
Yeah,
dude's only going to be 28 years old. The market value for this young guy, say young guy because he's
14, 15.
Yeah, something like that. 16.5 million.
What?
4 years for Kyle Duggar is the market value.
Wow.
Again, this is Spot Check. It's a tool. score like PFF, but they have their methods of determining what market value is, and I think for the most part they're pretty spot on from what I've seen last year.
Yeah.
All right. So somebody,
Chad,
yeah,
Josh is not on his rookie contract. He did sign a massive extension. So it's interesting because Josh is one of the names that's been thrown around for restructuring this offseason to maybe save us some cap room. So you can maybe restructure that extension that we gave him. It was a $253 million contract, something like that.
Yeah.
For Josh, I think it was. But yeah, there's some things that you can do to kind of manipulate the cap room, and part of that is restructuring his contract.
Yeah, you guys did a fantastic job. Those getting those rookies last season.
For sure.
Yep. Very awesome. I did want to. Somebody had a question. Roy did. Where is it? Who was asking about Trey?
All right. Yeah.
Where y'all go? Your thoughts on Trey White? I'll start with you, Jake.
I think Trey's going to retire.
Do you?
That's what my gut's telling me right now. We talked a little bit about Micah Hyde retiring. I think he goes, and I think Trey, they both retire this year at the offseason.
So how does that work? So let me bring up his contract right now. He's slotted to get, let's see here, like 16. Well, against the cap hit, he's 16.4. Mm-hmm. If you were to release him, you save yourself about $6 million. He's still a dead cap hit at 10.3. But if he retires, how's that work? Does he negotiate with the team? And I guess he's got some guaranteed money coming to him.
Right. So he's got $55,250,000 guaranteed. And he's actually not even slated to be a free agent until 2026. I know this year he's owed $8.35 in base salary with a $2.1 million signing bonus that comes into effect. So we would owe him that guaranteed money regardless.
Yeah.
I think there's ways where you could work something out, though, if he does retire, where, we could sort of be off the hook for some of those other incentive portions of his contract. So it may still save us cap room. I don't know how that works, though. That's a good question.
I wonder if they could renegotiate a little bit with him, push it down the road a little bit.
Yeah.
But because like I said, he's a cap hit of 16 mil. You can save 6 mil if you release him. I don't know if he retires, but if it's me, let's play GM right now. Let's play GM. I'd be curious what the chat thinks. I don't think he's back. I think if I'm GM, I'm saying thank you, Trey, and I'm saving $6 million in the cap and putting it towards other folks. The corners did a fair job. Who knows what happens with Kyer this year? I mean, does he have a good camp and finally get an opportunity? But for me, I don't think Trey's back. That's just my opinion. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I agree. 100%. Yeah. My dad's saying to cut him. Yeah. I mean, you made a good point there, Mike. What do we save? $6 million or something?
Yeah,
in cap
6
space?
million. Yeah.
That'd be really nice, honestly. Yeah, Roy, I think you're right with that. He says the NFLPA has no contingency for retirement as far as I know. Yeah, I think you're spot on with that one.
Yeah, I know with injury they do. But
right.
All right. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
2 hours in the book.
2-hour show, Mike. We're killing it lately.
Hopefully you enjoyed, going away a little bit from football. I think it's good to kind of, I don't know about you, Jake, but I love all sports. If you saw me on Brett's Saturday, was it Sunday sit down show?
Yeah.
I'm all about all sports. There's not a sport.
I'm watching it right after this show tonight. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to watch it right after this.
All right.
Finally.
He asked me what other sports. I said there's really not a sport I don't enjoy. Tennis, hockey, baseball. I played baseball. I played football at a young level until I had my back surgery. Baseball is where I probably was the best at. Played some shortstop, second base, but football, Pee Wee football at the Babcock Boys Club right around me, 8 to 10. I was so fast. I was such a good linebacker.
I love it, Mike.
I love all sports. So hopefully you enjoyed it, guys. Going off path and talking about something else for a little bit, but we'll always be talking Buffalo football or something going on in Buffalo because we're all about Buffalo. So Jake, closing thoughts, my friend? Yep, there it
Yeah,
is, Roy.
closing thoughts. Yeah, it's not 3 a.m. You're right, Roy. I'm a little upset. I don't know really how to ever say goodbye. So we could just keep going on and on and
I
on,
know
but
we could.
I don't know if anyone wants that, to be honest with you. Yeah, closing thoughts are, I'm just excited for the draft season to start, excited to start doing some mock drafts. Also, I want you all to know Tuesday night, we're doing some trivia here on the Nickel City Mafia channel with our AFC East Summit show. I will be the one hosting. I've actually been disqualified from ever doing trivia because apparently I know too much.
Yeah.
Humble brag, no big deal. Also, if you haven't checked it out, we did just post a video. So myself and my good buddy Ian, we did this. We're going to start doing this series where we play this game called Immaculate Grid. And our goal is to get the lowest rarity score. So basically, the whole concept with Immaculate Grid, you got these teams, they're matched up. So on top, you'll have a logo for like the Bills, and on the side, you'll have a logo for like the Jets. And then you got to match up a player who play for both the Bills and Jets. And the goal is you don't want to name a guy that's like an easy choice, right? So like, I don't know, off the top of my head, like a guy like we named Jim Leonard as a player for both the Bills and Jets and felt like that would be a low rarity hit. And turns out only 0.5% of people could name Jim Leonard for that. So our goal is to get the lowest rarity score because at the end it adds up all your percentages. I think we got 10 for our first one, and that was our best score. And if you're, you're in the tens, it's pretty darn good. But our goal is to even get in the single digits if possible. So Ian and I, well known for just knowing these random dudes. So check it out. It was a fun show. Looking to do more of that too. But no, thank you all for watching. It was a great time tonight. And Mike, thanks as always. You're a great host, the best in the biz.
I appreciate that, buddy. Really do. And you are the best in the biz, honestly. You're encyclopedia of knowledge. That's why you've been disqualified from trivia.
I guess
nobody knows more information about eras that you weren't even around for, which is incredible. Real quick, Roy, not for me. I mean, I don't watch a lot of. I didn't watch the XFL. I watched a little bit of the USFL. I can't do the UFL. I can't. There's just too many other things. Like it's a minor league team, and I have more other things that I'm going to watch besides that. So, Jake, real quick, UFL for you?
Oh, absolutely, I will be. It's more football, Mike. Of course, I'm going to do it.
All right, my Blues are playing the Sabres coming up after the ASG, I believe. So, yeah, we have a Sabres Edge show. Check that out Tuesday nights at 8:30 Eastern. Good stuff there. Jared Maiden,
for sure. And
the Renegades, yeah.
This is from a while back, but I wanted to bring this up. Jared Maiden, former Bills practice squad safety, signed with the Dallas Renegades of the XFL. So if there's any reason to watch, we got some former Bills playing in the XFL this year, Mike. Exciting times.
That's awesome. Like, I'm glad you just said that because Jared Maiden, I'm like, who the hell is Jared Maiden? So great.
Yeah.
Get on with the Renegades. It gives these guys an opportunity to maybe get another shot.
For sure.
And then Rice says, I'll play trivia. It'll make everyone else look like geniuses.
Tune in Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, Roy. It'll be a fun one.
Chris Burkett. Who's Chris Burkett? I don't know.
Drawing a blank on this one.
Trek reviewer. Throwing me off there. Oh, it's gotta be a rare player. I think he's talking about that. Maybe he's got him. Maybe it was Chris Burkett.
Chris Burkett. Okay, yeah, Chris Burkett. He's a receiver, right? 6'4" something.
I think so.
Yeah, he was big. Yeah, okay. Chris Burkett, yes. Yep.
All right, everyone. Well, listen.
Burkett.
Yeah.
Chris Burkett.
Share. I'm going to ask for something else. Share the show with others. I always say, like, comment. I would love to hear in the chat. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of folks. We get folks on the rewatch who always leave comments. Tell us what you thought about the Senior Bowl standouts for you that could potentially help out our Buffalo Bills. Talk about those free agents that we have. Anyone you disagree with us where we said yes, you say no. I'm sure we'll see some of that. But anyhow, it was a lot of fun. And we'll see
that would get a good percentage, Trek review.
Wednesday. What did he say?
He said that would qualify for Bills and Jets. You're right. Yeah. Jackson State, I want to say, went to school. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was Jackson State, but get it in the comments.
Chad gets my award of the day. I mean, he's a Chiefs fan. He found this a few weeks back when I think it was after the game where we had lost to them. Came on late. We went late that night. And we appreciate you, Chad, for joining in and keeping us informed on the Chiefs and giving some opinions on the Bills. It's very cool to see. So thank you for that. Everyone, appreciate you. Roy, Trek Reviewer, Battlehawk, Big Al, good to see you. Hopefully Mama Padger's doing well. Haven't seen her much lately.
yeah.
Chime in. But everyone else, have a great night, and we'll see you Wednesday, hopefully on time. We shoot for 9 p.m., but life gets in the way sometimes, like it did tonight, and we are a little late. But thank you all. We'll see you soon, man.
Absolutely. Go
Go
Bills.
Bills.